Get council back on the dais, please.
But you'll be there later.
I had four.
No, I'm always on
I
time
had
for what's
four.
important.
One.
1, 2, 3,
No,
4, 5. All right,
There he is.
Go.
So I'd like to call to order the April 29th regular meeting of the Fleurville City Council at 7:07. Ladies and gentlemen, guests, please stand for the pledge and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
honor
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
You may be seated. Our next item is public comment in accordance with the Texas Attorney General's opinion. Any public comment that is made on an item that is not on the published final agenda will only be heard by the City Council. No formal action, discussion, deliberation, or comment will be made by City Council. Each person providing public comment will have 3 minutes. I have, as of this moment, 2 individuals. Rebecca Hutchinson.
Up to the
Yeah.
mic, please.
Thank you. Right here.
That would be kind of cool.
Stand up. Good evening. My name is Rebecca Hutchinson, and I am a homeowner here in Pflugerville, Texas. I've come to speak tonight about the Gilliland Pool updates and lack thereof. As a taxpaying member of the city, I have incredibly frustrated by the status of the pool and the condition to which it still sits, as well as the lack of communication to the members of the city. My 3 main areas of concern are as follows: safety, functionality, and accountability. I will touch briefly on each point. Safety. As it currently sits, the pool and the surrounding incomplete structures are incredibly unsafe for patrons of all ages. The temporary fencing is dilapidated and could easily be pushed over by curious kids or strong winds. The fencing isn't secure, and there are multiple gaps allowing patrons to go between the gaps, potentially causing severe bodily harm. The sandbags holding the temporary fencing are mostly spewing, and the sand has been picked up and thrown by children in the eyes of other children. The permanent fencing that has yet to be installed around the entire perimeter of the pool area is lying against an incomplete structure, the rungs of which could impale someone if they were to climb upon it, given that there's currently access to it. There is rebar sticking out where concrete was to be poured. This area leads to the pool equipment that I'm sure must be checked, and sometimes in dark conditions. There are multiple access points to this incomplete structure around the backside as well. Functionality. As it stands today, the only portion of Gilliland Pool that is functional is the pool itself, and that's actually not as functional as it should be. The pool currently doesn't even have backstroke flags hanging, which is actually a safety concern for swimmers hitting their heads because there's no indication they are getting close to the wall. There is 1 porta potty present, and that must be used by all swimmers, lifeguards, parents, siblings, and observers present at the time. This has been the case since September of 2023. Swimmers aren't able to shower off after being in chlorine, and there isn't water available on deck or in the vicinity to refill water bottles to stay hydrated, which is another safety issue when temperatures start climbing, getting over 100 degrees. Accountability. I've looked back at the meeting minutes and all updates on Facebook and the webpage of the pool itself. The board approved the construction of the contract for nearly $1.5 million back on September 27, 2022. From everything I have heard, the completion of the construction was to be finished by the summer of 2023. The swim teams and the city-sponsored swim lessons informed parents that the pool wasn't in fact complete and that everyone had to be crammed together at Windermere for the summer of 2023. On June 5th, 2023, an update was given on the city's Facebook page saying progress was being made and that completion was expected by late summer. On the webpage for Gilliland Creek Pool, it's still showing that completion was expected by fall 2023. By the time year-round swim teams started back in September, the construction was still not complete. All progress came to an actual halt at the end of 2023 of October. And no one I've seen or talked to, and I haven't seen it myself, nobody's been there working on the facility since that time. There's been multiple instances where citizens inquired on the city's Facebook page Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hutchinson. Just,
I was going to ask Serena a question.
I was going to say one word to that. That seems very appalling.
Yes, sir. It's very frustrating.
And Serena, correct me if I'm wrong. This is due to the fact that at one point we were way ahead of construction, and the company that was actually doing the construction went out of business, correct?
And filed bankruptcy.
And filed bankruptcy right there. And during this entire time,
It
You've
is
been
We'll be
working-
separate.
talking
working
about
toward
this
that.
on the
Yeah.
agenda later on tonight.
Yeah.
Yep. Wait, it's on the agenda. There we go. Do you want to speak now or later when we have the item on the agenda?
How much longer is that gonna be?
It could be a while.
Good question.
Go ahead.
I mean, so we can't ask questions until later?
Yes, that's
So
correct.
I'm able to-
Okay.
until later.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Hutchison, you're welcome to make comment later as well. Okay. Anybody else here wishing to make public comment? This is your moment. All right, our next item is presentations, and we have a handful of proclamations. Drink of water. This evening, I have the honor to present a proclamation on Volunteer Appreciation Month, which is an opportunity to recognize and honor the countless individuals who selflessly invest in the lives of others. Volunteering one's time, talents, and resources has been an integral part of our heritage since the early days of our nation, and it is essential that we continue this tradition of giving and sharing to preserve and improve the quality of life for all citizens in our community. Each year, a month is designated in our nation for the dual purpose of recognizing those who give of themselves and encouraging all citizens to become involved in volunteer work. And it is fitting at this time that we thank you to all individuals, groups, businesses, city council, who have given time, energy, and resources to their communities through volunteer service. This evening, I have Eddie Garcia, who will accept the proclamation on behalf of volunteers. He's our volunteer coordinator, by the way.
Small opportunity to say about volunteers. We have a very robust volunteer program, including the Rotary Club members that are here. They're one of my go-to groups. Last year, because of volunteerism, the city of Pflugerville was recognized in Keep Texas Beautiful as a recipient of a $270,000 grant to create a lasting memorial once we find where to put it. But because of volunteerism. So yeah, thank you for all of you that volunteer. Last year we put in 39,972 hours of volunteerism, so it's robust. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor.
His cousin's on the board with the education. He's good at that. Contract with Texas.
This week is National Work Zone Awareness Week. It's an annual spring campaign held at the start of construction season to encourage safe driving through streets, roads, and highway work zones. National Work Zone Awareness Week is a way to raise public awareness for work zones and those who work in them, and the motorists that are encouraged to slow down to the posted speed limits, eliminate distractions while driving, and be watchful for roadway workers, their equipment, and vehicles on the side of the road in work zones. National Work Zone Awareness Week 2024 is taking place April 15th through the 19th. And as a way to raise public awareness of work zone hazards, the City of Pflugerville focuses on safe roads, work zones, and solutions for keeping everyone safe in the work zones and on the roadways as our collective responsibility. This evening we have Troy Motlock and staff here to accept the proclamation. He's our street operations supervisor.
Troy can make it today.
You might as well just stay rolled out. If only we had a city hall.
I was informed Troy was out keeping our work zones safe. Excuse me. Emergencies can occur at any time, requiring police, fire, or emergency medical services. Public safety dispatchers are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. See, he is keeping our roadways. Public safety dispatchers are the single vital link for our law enforcement personnel by obtaining vital information, monitoring their activities by radio, and providing them with the information ensuring their safety. The public safety dispatchers of the Pflugerville Police Department's Communication Division have contributed substantially to the safety of our community and police officers, apprehension of criminals, containment of dangerous situations, and treatment of patients. The Pflugerville Police Department's Communication Division has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism in their service to our citizens and police officers. This evening we have PSAP Manager Keisha Ramos and staff here to accept the proclamation.
It's like that's a lot of fingers there too. Look at that.
The National Animal Care and Control Association has designated the second week of April each year as National Animal Care and Control Appreciation Week. Every day, animal services officers and shelter staff put themselves in potentially dangerous situations to protect the health and welfare of all kinds of animals and the public. In addition to field work and shelter services, the Pflugerville Animal Welfare Services delivers critical community programs such as adoption and outreach, events such as Trunk or Treat, programs such as the Pet Pantry, Pickets for Paws, and education programs to schools and community groups. The City of Pflugerville would like to express its sincere thanks and appreciation for the outstanding service Public Animal Welfare Services provides on a daily basis to the residents of Pflugerville. I proclaim April 14th through the 20th, 2024 as National Animal Care and Control Appreciation Week in the City of Pflugerville, and we have Rhonda McClendon, our Animal Shelter Director, here, and staff to accept the proclamation.
Need another one. I miss Snowball. Yeah.
Where do you want it up?
Oh,
Right now. Right now.
Okay. I'm not even joking.
Just hand you the leash.
The Chihuahua or the big dog?
Free leash.
It's big for me.
Yeah. I miss Snowball.
The leash is the wrong color.
That is, those are the burnt orange leaves.
You've got the burn orange leash still waiting at home, don't you?
Yeah, that's what Doc's got.
This one is. This one's just.
Oh, he's so sweet.
They will be.
Look, see?
Yeah.
See? We
So-
need to take a picture and show the wife.
Potential adopters right here.
Yep.
Sweet Pea is up for adoption right
What
here.
a,
Right there.
What a great dog.
3 adoptions. Okay.
Oh, man.
And finally,
I'm taking this home to the wife.
I think Sweet Pea is going to adopt somebody.
Did we ever really have it?
Libraries offer the opportunity for everyone. Anybody else? We're going to be here late tonight anyway, so.
W.C. Fields said, never work with children or animals.
Libraries offer the opportunity for everyone to connect with others, learn new skills, and pursue their passions, no matter where they are in life's journey. Libraries are accessible and inclusive places that promote a sense of local connection, advancing understanding, civic engagement, and shared community goals. Libraries play a pivotal role in economic development by providing resources and support for job seekers, entrepreneurs, and small businesses, thus contributing to local prosperity and growth. Libraries are treasured institutions that preserve our collective heritage and knowledge, safeguarding both physical and digital resources for present and future generations. Libraries, librarians, library workers are joining library supporters and advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week. This evening I have Jennifer Griswold, our Library Board Director, here to accept the proclamation.
Oh, no, just thank you to our board members and our awesome staff. Kim back there also, she keeps us out of jail, hopefully. So, we couldn't do it
Did she
without
say
her.
out of jail? Like, what are we doing in our library? Yeah.
Thank you.
The difference between these two, 19 minutes, so $3 and 19. The difference between these two.
Okay, guess what? Item 4 is to conduct a presentation on the library. Jennifer, you're up.
That's not right. There we go. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jennifer Griswold, Library Director. I'm here to give you a very brief presentation about what we've been up to since the last time that I spoke with you guys, which I think was last year's budget time. This year, our library board has been very busy. They completed the 5-year plan. They also reviewed and updated our library policies. And this year, they formally supported the Library Bill of Rights and the Freedom to Read statement. And again, you've probably heard me say before that that is the right for everybody in the community to read what they please, and the obligation for libraries to provide different viewpoints and diverse voices for our community. Okay, our stats for fiscal year 23 are great. As you can see, they are up quite a bit since COVID. And in 2023, we added 4,000 new library cards. So that's 4,000 new members. to the library. We had, I believe, 3,000 more physical materials added to the library collection, which brought it up to just over 95,000. And we had 19,000 additional people come to programs. So we were at about 37,000 for fiscal year 23. Some of the things that we talked about earlier were our RFID project, that's radio frequency identification, and that is going to allow for better collection control, so it's better control over the materials. We'll know where materials are at all times, whether they're checked out, whether they're in, if they're in mending, what have you, we'll know that in real time.
You purposely put the just position between a cassette tape and an iPad?
That is actually part of phase 2 of the RFID, not the cassette tape. We've moved a little beyond that. This is the new enhanced self-check. So our library guests can come in and put a stack of books onto this platform, and it will check out all the books at once.
Awesome.
It'll also give us real-time inventory. So if things are out of order or if things are missing, we'll know, which will help us a lot with our loss. I don't believe we have a lot of loss of things just going missing, but now I will know for sure. Okay. We've been working a lot with Aaron Sellers for public art support. As you probably remember, the library has had gallery space for local artists since we had the new building completed in 2012. So we're booked out on gallery space through 2025. We have also added the display space this year, so that allows for 2 and 3 dimensional works of art to be displayed. And we have worked with Aaron on art in public spaces. We have the 2 gorgeous sculptures at the library now, Knowledge is Power and A Place for Our Thoughts, and those are both by local Pflugerville artists. We spoke a little bit about making the library even more family friendly, and we talked to you guys about adding the Mama Von nursing station. We did add that in January, and the ribbon cutting was done by our vice chair of the library board, Larissa Bresner. It gets great use. We're very proud of it, and I think the community was very grateful to have that. This year we added a book locker, so we are a library without walls now. We're 24 hours. People can reserve items online. It gets checked out. Well, it doesn't get checked out, but it gets pulled by library staff and put into the book locker. And then when people come to pick it up, they type in their code and it checks the book out to them. If you notice the graphics on this, this was done by our new marketing and outreach coordinator, Tiara Allen. She did that amazing graphic, and we're very proud of that. The good thing about the library without walls is people can pick it up outside of library hours. They can also drop their stuff off there. For whatever reason they have maybe a hot spot and they don't want to put it in the book drop, they can check it back in through the book locker. And we can expand the book locker if we wanted to. So right now, I actually did the numbers right before I came, and there are 17 lockers and 10 are in use right now. So it is getting used. And this is one of my favorite things. Like every place in the city, we don't have space anymore. We're outgrowing our space, and we've had to take over one of the meeting rooms for staff space. So in order to continue to give our public space where they can study, they can hold small meetings, we're going with the pillar booth. These are going to ship in May, and they're amazing because they can be put on casters and moved around the building. So if we needed to move a meeting room for a special event, we can actually do it. The larger one is ADA compliant, so it does fit a wheelchair. If there's not a wheelchair in there, it can seat 4 for a small meeting. The other one is single occupancy. We're going to treat these just like we do our meeting rooms, except we will not be charging for these unless we just see an outrageous amount of use and we have to in order to manage that. They will be reservable, so people will be able to reserve them for job interviews, for an exam, whatever they need, and we will not be charging for them initially, as I said. When they are not reserved, like our other meeting rooms, they will also be first come, first serve. So people can use them for, 2 or 3 hours within reason. They can't set up shop there so that nobody else gets to use it, but they will be first come, first serve. Okay, beyond the basics, the scope of librarianship has just changed drastically in the last 20 years. We find ourselves as a profession called to fill a lot of gaps. Um, as you know, we've been offering the care kits for quite some time here. We also offer the care cabinet that's completely stocked by donations from the community, which is amazing. We have branched out. This was the work of Assistant Director Daniel Barra to have the blood drives. And this year we've been doing a lot of support for the community with our swaps. So we've had clothing swaps, we've had plant swaps, craft swaps, book swaps. And basically the idea, again, is you don't have to spend any money. Bring your gently used clothes, swap them for a new wardrobe, with other people in the community, and it saves money and it also sort of creates a sense of community.
How popular have those swaps been?
Hugely popular. The plant swaps, I believe she is having to register people for those because it was getting out of control. People love their plants. So years ago, when I became the library director, I said that I wanted our library to be the one that other libraries strove to be. And the staff took that literally, and they just did it. I can take no credit for that at all. They are involved at every level of librarianship, from Central Texas to the nation. They are members of 36 different roundtables and commissions in the state library system. Often they are chairs and vice chairs or officers on those commissions and roundtables. Those are positions that you have to be elected to. So you just don't volunteer for it. You actually have to be elected to it. They are involved in 23 American Library Association roundtables and commissions. We have 4 chairs. We have 4 vice chairs. 6 of us are doing presentations at the Texas Library Association next week. And 4 have or will be presenting at ALA. I had 2 present already, and I believe another 2 will be presenting in June. And then other professional organizations. We've had 2 presentations so far, but we're only in April, so I'm sure we'll be presenting more. And these are all things that you either need to apply to, and you're chosen to present, or you're invited to present. So yeah, so that's it. Awesome staff.
Great.
Y'all have any questions?
I noticed your program attendance, while it's up dramatically from early COVID, is not yet completely recovered to the pre-COVID levels.
Right.
What is your projection going forward?
I believe it's continuing to rise. If I were to have brought the fiscal year 24 numbers, those program numbers continue to go up. I have seen a little bit of a drop in the circulation numbers. That sort of ebbs and flows. I expect those to go up in the summer. That's our busiest time. I also expect us to see some crazy numbers in programs over the summer. The farm day that they just did was over 1,000 people.
And you also have done more and more with non-physical materials, with the e-books and things like that.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us about what those stats look like?
Yeah, the ebook and electronic resources stacks are always huge. That's going to include everything from e-audio, ebooks to professional journals, streaming movies, streaming music. We have all of it. So those are really large. It's difficult to do a side-by-side comparison with the print materials because with some of the electronic resources, we'll have access to like the entire Sony music catalog. So that's millions of things. So it's hard to do that comparison, but we do make sure that we are aware of how our budget is divided between print or physical materials and electronic, and that it is what is the word? We're not spending more in one area than it's being used.
Do you have data? You mentioned with Sony, for instance, you have access to millions
Yes.
of musical recordings, but do you have data that tells you how many of those are being streamed?
Yes.
How many individual hours are being used
We
on
do.
ebooks?
We have stats on streaming and on downloadables. We do have to report to the state every year. So it's part of our annual report to the state. So we do keep all of those. Happy to provide them.
Yeah, I'd like to see that in the stats next year when you do this report. Just
Sure.
kind of give us a year over year so we can see the progress that you guys are making.
You bet.
Thank you.
Another last one that I didn't mention that I meant to mention. It was the brainchild of Daniel Barra, and that is the Career Online High School. I think it's such an awesome program. We just had a second person graduate with their high school diploma. This is for adults, so it's ages 19 and up, and they do have to apply and be chosen to be in this program. And we provide scholarships because it's not free. So, we've had 2 graduate. We have, I think, 4 more who are in the program now. It's an amazing thing. If you didn't see the That's My Pflugerville piece on it that Roger did, of one of our graduates, you should take a look at it.
You said you
Very cool.
provide scholarships. What's the fee for that?
They're about 1,500.
1,500? Yeah.
How much?
1,500.
1,500.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great job, Jennifer.
Any
Thank you.
other
Absolutely.
questions? Okay, thank you.
Moving on, Trista, would you, counsel, anything you wish to pull from the consent agenda?
5D.
5D.
Not it.
Yeah, I got a long list.
Nothing important.
You got a long list?
I got a long list.
We know what Atmos.
Somebody else pulled 5D already?
5D.
5D is in dog, 5G is in Gumby.
Nobody says G is in Gumby. Keep going.
I beg to differ.
Gamma.
5H is in hay, and 5K is in Kappa.
Kellogg's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody says Kappa either, right? Is that what you can say?
He said Kellogg's. I
Oh,
did.
Kellogg. Yeah.
Okay, anything else, council? All right, Trista.
All right,
Do we have any
items
other items left?
5D, 5G, 5H, and 5K have been pulled. Item 5A is approving an ordinance on second reading with a caption reading an ordinance of the City of Pflugerville, Texas, amending ordinance number 1203-15-02-24 of the City of Pflugerville, Texas as amended by changing the zoning designation of approximately 14.794 acres of unplatted land situated in the Alexander Walters Survey number 67, abstract number 791, Travis County, Texas, from general business 1 to retail to be known as the Wells Branch and Emmanuel rezoning, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, providing an effective date. Again, items 5D, 5G, 5H, and 5K have been pulled. All items remaining may be acted upon in a single motion.
Move to approve.
Second. Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to 6A, conduct a public hearing and consider approving an ordinance on first reading with the caption reading, an ordinance of the City of Pflugerville readopting Code of Ordinances Title IX General Regulations Chapter 95 Parks and Recreation Subchapter 95.50 Youth Program Standards of Care replacing all ordinances in conflict containing a savings clause and declaration or declaring an effective date. Shane.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This public hearing is required by the state every year. It allows municipalities to not be held to the child care standards of licensing. But all we are, to be exempt, we have to have a public hearing and we have to update y'all on our current standards of care. There is a change this year due to Cotty's Law, which was passed by the Texas legislation. And Jonathan is here to give you a little bit more info. Jonathan, our recreation superintendent.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much. So I just wanted to cover the one change that we have in this year's standard of care ordinance. It has to do with water safety. So last year, or actually during 2019, there was a girl who drowned in a pool here in Central Texas. And because of that, the legislature passed a new law called Cotty's Law. In response to this new law, facilities that offer camp-type programs are now required to ask parents on their registration if their child is a swimmer or a non-swimmer. The kids who are marked as swimmers are required to be swim tested, and those who are marked as non-swimmers must be immediately put into a life vest, U.S. Coast Guard approved, upon entry to the pool facility. So we have added that to our standard of care ordinance.
And the swim test is a basic test that's utilized across the state.
Yes, that's correct.
Same thing.
So do they get issued a card or something?
So what they get is they get a wristband,
Okay.
and that wristband designates that they have to have a life jacket on, so that our camp staff is checking for kids with wristbands to make sure they are wearing that.
Or they're certified tested swimmers or whatever?
Exactly.
Correct. Okay.
Is that a Red Cross test?
So it's essentially just a basic swim test from one end to the pool to the other. It's not testing specific strokes or anything like that you would get normally in your swim lesson type classes.
Okay.
And they can't touch the bottom. They can't grab onto the side wall. They have to make it down in a reasonable amount of time.
From one end to the other.
Yes.
And reasonable is based on the size of the kid.
It
length of the pool.
just says reasonable time.
We
So if you're a small person and short strokes, it might take you longer, I guess.
I mean, we know adults that will take.
Okay.
Yeah, don't test me.
Anything else?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
Motion approved. 6A.
Motion to
Second.
close the public hearing?
Oh, okay. Is there anybody here in the public wishing to make a comment? Okay.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
A motion and a second to close the public hearing.
Thank you.
Motion carried.
Motion approved 6A is presented.
Second.
Motion and second to approve.
7 seconds, okay.
1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3,
Mississippi.
1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, 6, 1,000. More like 8.5.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you very much. Okay. I am going to, since we just got through talking about child safety in pools, move 7D up, which is a presentation regarding an update on the Gillen Creek Pool facility, and so our guests don't have to wait as long. Katie?
Hi, I'm Katie Kay. I'm the Assistant Director of Traffic and Transportation for the city. And, okay, that's fine. Okay. So we present an update on the Gilliland Creek Pool facility. And I'll start with just brief summary of where we've been with this project. So the structures on the site, at first there was a decision to do a prefab. And then it was decided in 2020 to do standard construction. So that started a process in 2021 of starting design of standard construction of buildings to be elevated above the floodplain. In 2022, the design was completed and the contract was awarded, and a notice to proceed was given in October of 2022. And just again, to give a little bit of the past, there were several buildings that were demolished, and that's already been done. The buildings that were demolished were not in a good condition.
And that had to do with Atlas 14 and the actual flooding that we saw in those specific areas and the structures that fell into those flood zones.
Yeah, there's a history of flooding of these buildings.
Yeah.
And of course, the update with Atlas 14 doesn't help with the additional rainfall. So as part of the bid package, all of the items listed here were done. So it's a new restroom, shower, and changing facility, and a new lifeguard office that includes ticketing and concessions. This is a floor plan. So these buildings have been built. They're not finished yet. And as mentioned earlier in the meeting, this is due to the contractor ceasing operations, filing for bankruptcy, and we've been going through the surety bond process.
Could you clarify for me when the contractor declared bankruptcy?
Yeah,
is there a date?
It would help if you can, just for the public to understand.
Yeah.
Go through the timeline of what happened and what led to what regarding an ultimate bankruptcy for these folks.
Cease work on December 23. And
yes.
filed
So
for bankruptcy January 24.
Prior to December 2023, we noticed some lagging behind of being behind schedule.
Because we noticed, I mean, full disclosure, one of my daughters, one of them, we're talking about swim lessons, so she was the one who was affected. We moved into the other pool. The parents were great. Honestly, staff was great. I was appreciative the whole community just shifting to the other area, and we anticipated it being done in September. So when did we start to notice all of a sudden we're like, okay, we're getting closer to September and the bricks are still hanging out?
Yeah, it was, well, the anticipated final completion was June 2023, and so
I'm trying to be generous.
Yeah.
Well, and we were notified that substantial completion, I guess it moved to September 25th, and then it moved to October 9th. And I'd say I got a status update on October 10th that they were doing insulation on the roof, and I don't know that council had seen another update since then. So I got to tell you, I was a bit blindsided. I didn't realize it wasn't done yet, and if we thought it was going to be done October 9th, and they didn't declare bankruptcy until January, what happens?
So part of the frustration has been, and I guess Caesar and I are the ones who get the brunt of the calls on this, was that staff, I mean, we were ahead of schedule, like way ahead of schedule. And we were like, oh, this is great. This is actually going to get executed. Okay, we got to move it this summer. We thought it was going to be, because remember we asked specifically, we said, can you get this done by May 2023?
Yes, we were expecting summer last year.
And they said, absolutely, we can get it done by May 2023. And then they said, okay, we've got to wrap up some things and work from there. I guess the real question to his point is, so
September 1st, I was told 5 more weeks.
Yeah. So when did we start? So we obviously noticed they were slowing down. When did we notice that not only were they slowing down, but to a point where they weren't able to complete it? Until after they gave us notice? I mean, who was overseeing the project to see what's going on with that?
So when I started in October, November, that's when it was obvious that there was back and forth communication of where are we on this? How are we going to finish these items? And then the communication.
So prior to you starting, and I guess you had to read the prior court, and maybe that's a better question for you. Is that so? Prior to you starting, what was the correspondence? Hey, we're working on it. We're getting to it. Or dude, we have no money and we have no staff.
I can't say that it said that. It was just more of, it was like leading us on okay, they're going to develop a schedule to complete these items.
So you were never cognizant, you're never made aware, put on notice that, hey, listen.
Well,
the bankruptcy was a surprise to us.
Well, I do have a note. So September 1st, they told us essentially 5, maybe 6 weeks. September 22nd, we said, oh, by the way, you were supposed to be done in July, and we're pursuing liquidated damages. Maybe it's a conversation we need to have with our attorney. September 22nd, we were already talking about liquidated damages with them. And then October 10th, they were still doing work. Someone was still doing work, even though we thought it should have been done by then. So, yeah, I'm trying to figure out how we got 4 months behind in 6 weeks.
Does that make sense?
Yes, and as soon as we got the bankruptcy notice in January, we knew immediately we needed to start the surety process and just
that doesn't
go that route.
So you're saying January, but he's asking about
September. October we should have.
Yeah, so that's what we're asking. Why wasn't the the gun shot, the starting gun shot then. Just saying, hey, wait
Well,
a minute. When you start, we've got, okay, we
Were
know
we
that,
already moving forward with legal action?
Yeah.
It sounds like it.
so why weren't we, and I don't want to be confusing, but so at that point, why weren't we looking to see what we can do, ameliorate and mitigate our damages, meaning our ability to get this done as soon as possible? Is there a reason why we had to wait to go through the surety process to do that?
So yes, my
Explain that.
understanding is that the surety process can take a long time. So,
So
it
you
can
can't-
take a year.
You can't. Wait. So
yeah.
my apologies. You're right. I didn't ask the question well.
Okay.
The surety process in getting another person to fix something, fix what we're doing, ameliorate our damages. Can that happen simultaneously, or does that have to happen? You have to do surety first, wait for that to play out before you can actually hire somebody else to fix it. Because from my experience is that, hey, listen, if we're trying to mitigate damages, you can always go to the surety bond process. But if you're trying to get something done, you're going to execute that, and then you'll put that on top of whatever damages you have anyway if you're going after a person. In this instance, obviously, they're a lemon because they filed for bankruptcy. But why, to his
The
question...
bond is still there.
Yeah.
And we've done it with a road before,
Yeah,
right? We
so-
went in and
So that's
commenced repairs.
So that's the question,
and then got the money
And
back.
if you're not the right person, because you just said, "Dude, I got here in October, November,"
Yeah.
but why did we wait? Why did we not? Particularly because we have the summer coming up again.
Yeah, well, I asked the same question when I got this project, and it was just the due diligence of giving the contractor an opportunity to catch up, and just dropping everything and moving to another thing is not so simple. There's process and time associated with that. So it was just this, from I would say from October to January until it was very clear that this contractor cannot continue. It was just kind of weighing the options and seeing if the contractor can perform. And by January, it was super obvious they can't. And so then that triggered the process.
But to Doug's point, it's April.
I mean, the Tesla Gigafactory was built faster than this.
I mean, and again, we're not trying to, because obviously it's not your fault. We understand this is not your fault. Why? But we're just trying to figure out why. And you gave that timeline. What you didn't talk about was that timeline. Is that how we had a completely different opinion? We did a 180. We said, okay, listen, you guys said we can save this. This is great. We can do this moving forward. And not you, but I mean, back in, I think it was 2019, 2020, whenever we were like, okay, listen, let's make this as great as possible. It was already a high profile item for us because one of the things that staff, which they did a good job of, showing us up on that, is that, listen, it's a great location for the entire community to be at. It's going to be hard for you to be able to get a location again somewhere else like this. So this was already a high profile item. And my concern is that and that's what I'm trying to understand. We're having this conversation in April. You said that in January, we found out, dude, they're just not going to do it. Why couldn't we have gotten people, at least let's say even January, right? To say, we need to finish this up right now. So, because I think, how many more weeks do we anticipate construction on? What do we say?
So
crap.
we have
Is that really
a bunch
right?
of
January or Jan?
I'm sorry, what?
May?
No, when is it truly going to be done?
Yeah.
So we're aiming to have it ready for opening in May. And to the point brought up about concerns about safety, we have met with the surety to go over the critical safety issues that are of concern to us as well. To emphasize that needs to be fixed as soon as possible.
Start of May, end of May. By May,
and hey, be as conservative as possible, because you obviously know we're paying attention to
Make it the end of May, you'll be safe.
Kids should be swimming mid-May.
And that's
easily.
Yeah. So
Swimming now.
So I've talked to park staff. They want to do staff training mid-May. So ideal to have it ready by then, and then opening up at the end of May, Memorial Day weekend.
Okay, now
We have
you
a
said that.
contractor who's working on it right now. Yes or no?
So we are working through the surety bond process right now.
Okay.
Charlie, can
Who's
you
moving
hold on.
bricks and when are they moving?
I mean, we're not involved in the. So here's my understanding of what.
Tell me how this process works.
Yeah, this is my understanding of what occurred. We were brought into this issue in January, early February of this year, when it was determined that the
After they declared bankruptcy.
After they declared, and we've been working with the surety. We had to gather all the appropriate and the two lawyers know this. We have to get all the documents together. We have to get it all over to the surety. All that was accomplished in February. We got all the documents over to the surety in early March. and have been working with the surety to get together through the performance bond to do work to get. And my understanding is the surety was there just a week ago or so, or 2 weeks, to do a site inspection, to determine what work was going to be necessary so that they could, because we have to do this through, in order to get reimbursed and to use the performance bond, we have to use them. And we're sort of at the will of the surety when it comes to these types of things. But it's my understanding that staff has already initiated some contracts to try to get some work done outside of the surety process. And that's my understanding of where we're
So
at.
Charlie, to your point, okay, for us to be able to recoup through the surety, we have to follow their specific images. But
Yes.
there's also another avenue of recouping through the surety is saying, hey, listen, this was the guy that you had right here as well. We're gonna hold you liable for whatever the X amount is for whoever you're hiring outside of that, to be able to go ahead and cover those costs over there as well. And I think in this instance, I think we have a very fair legal case to say we've been very diligent and fair in waiting and trying to work this through. The question that we're having is that why couldn't we walk and chew gum at the same time? Like, why? I mean, even if we knew that okay, we were going to go the surety process, we could have gotten someone out there early and say, hey, listen, this is a high priority item. Check right there so you know what we're ultimately going to fix. And then so you're aware of it, you check your boxes, so then we mitigate our damages so people are aware, cognizant of what's happening from there. And then so we have I hate to put it that way, but we have a model for which we can sue ultimately to hold the person accountable. But ultimately, like I said, I mean, it's very confusing because this is April.
Well, it's two processes. One is to utilize the surety process through the performance bond. And we have to follow those obligations in order to get paid through the surety bond. We could, of course, ignore the surety bond, the performance bond, and engage contractors outside the surety process, and then go after the contractor, but the contractor has filed bankruptcy.
But let me ask you a question related to that. Let me ask you a
yeah,
question. So, so the contractor was working on a contract,
Yes.
and has now declared bankruptcy. And
Yes.
I would assume we were making regular payments based on completion to that contractor. We didn't write a check up front. We're not writing a check at the
assume
end,
that,
right?
Yes, we do have some. We do have
have
money.
holdback in
we
that
do have some money.
contract.
Yes, we have some
Do
retainage.
we have enough holdback in that contract to finish the job? Because we should.
I'm not involved in the project.
I mean,
just
we
on the
should
legal
never have
side.
been paying
Yeah,
ahead,
yeah.
and we should have had some.
I do believe we have retainage, and those are all issues
Well, not
that
just
we will.
retainage, but hopefully we paid for what they had
what's
done,
left? Yeah,
and
what's left in the
Yeah,
scope?
I have to defer to.
and in that
yeah.
case, we shouldn't need to go for the surety. We should have enough money to just go and pay someone else to get it done.
Well, you want to be able to. You want to. I'm sorry.
Hold on a second. I want to talk about a process here. I think what you're seeing on the dais here is we're all really unhappy that we didn't find out about this in January. So next time
Well,
there's a
October,
situation like that,
personally.
we'd like to know immediately
wasn't in the week-
when the
it was in the weekly
contractor
on 10,
declares
yeah.
bankruptcy so that we can look at whether or not we want to wait and go through the surety process, or we want to move forward with some of these other options that Councilman Pro Tem Weiss or I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Weiss and Councilman Matera have talked about. So I do agree that we want to, look after the best interests of the taxpayers, make sure we recover as much money as we can, but sometimes, in the interests of the urgent needs of the citizens, we need to spend a little more money and
Do the right thing.
as a lawyer, of course, I have a lot of appreciation for the niceties of going through the legal process, but sometimes we need to not do that and spend the money and get the project done. And the decision about whether or not to go through the legal process or immediately engage another contractor needs to be made up
Yeah,
here.
that maybe
it does not need to be made by staff.
And
We need to be
yeah.
made aware of these problems immediately when they happen.
And maybe that's what really what it boils down to. And I can't believe I'm saying this. So make sure you put the date right down for this.
Would you agree?
I think that he's.
Yes, it is a public safety issue.
I think he conveyed it succinctly and very well. I mean, that was succinct for him, and I think you're right. Is that should have been a policy decision, because ultimately you're doing the right avenues from there as well. But this is a high profile item that.
Things that was on the dais when I first got onto the council. what are we gonna do about this flooded out building?
Yeah.
It was on here before you
Years
were
ago.
here.
It was, and remember,
Yeah.
and we changed our mind because we were like, get rid of it all.
Yeah. And Councilmember
The first option was too
Weiss,
expensive.
to- it looks like there's probably about 150,000 left. My understanding is about 150,000 left in the budget and 66,000 left in retainage.
And
That's my
how
general
much-
understanding.
So I'm sorry. So that's a total
About a
of
$212,000
212,
approximate. Yes,
216.
sir. Mhm.
And how much is required to get done?
Yeah. How much,
That I don't know the answer.
so
Yeah,
how much do we have left?
How much would it cost for us
us
to hire someone tomorrow to finish it?
So we're going through we've already received estimates we've gotten subcontractors to handle each aspect, these tasks here that are listed. We have encountered the issue of contractors not wanting to provide an estimate or work on it because it's not their work that they're following up on. So that's one thing that we're having to deal with. But yeah, we've been actively gathering estimates from contractors and
Wait. So I
securing
want
the
to
work.
make sure.
Can we have an estimate at the next meeting?
Oh, we can get one for you.
They don't need to bring it to
It's not
Yeah.
complete because we're still trying to go through.
Can you get it complete before the next meeting?
I would have done well before that.
We want to move quicker than that.
Yeah.
No, but I'm trying to understand. You're saying that you've had one of the barriers you've had is that there are people who don't want to do the mitigation work. It's because it's not their prior work. So
Right.
and they're following a specific scope and the dynamics and the engineering that was required for that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Have we overcome that hurdle?
So I think we need to get like one or two more contractors on board, but for all the others, we do have estimates and people willing to work on it.
Okay, and those one or two contractors on board, are they going to be doing a substantial amount of the work?
Well, it's based out by
No,
discipline.
I'm just asking because you gave.
I'm trying to understand if the $215,000 that we have left is enough to finish it
What's
tomorrow.
the delta between the 210 and what we have to pay to get this fixed?
And you gave us a end of May deadline.
Yeah.
So we just be honest with us.
Because I'm feeling like we're not a creditor in their bankruptcy.
That is not at the moment.
No.
And we held enough back. We didn't give them the last check because they declared bankruptcy and they didn't get stuff
My
done.
understanding.
Going through the surety is much better than the bank.
Yeah. So and I'm not even clear that we need to go through the surety because we still have the money,
Some money.
In terms of that,
Yeah.
right?
in
It-
terms of that, it's not always a one-to-one deal.
Yeah, we don't know if what we don't know is were
don't
there
know if it's gonna
problems with
cost
the
us
original
more.
work that's going to have to be fixed.
That's an excellent point. So therefore, we do have to go through the surety process.
Yeah, right.
I mean, if we otherwise we're stuck with that bill.
I'd rather get it done quicker.
Yeah, no, I
None of this precludes it being done quicker.
No. If we go through the surety process, that takes longer.
No. Because remember,
That's what
we're
Charlie
op-
said yes, you said no.
We're operating on two different tracks. They're hiring people to get things done. They need two more contractors to get whatever needs to be done, and we're still going through the process. Yeah.
Yeah, the surety just won't cover work that
Exactly.
that we have done that they haven't approved.
But we're paying
Correct.
for that out of the contract.
Yes.
So what's
Right.
the surety going to cover?
Any other work that needs to be done. Yeah.
And I can get you. I have the numbers on my laptop. I can get those numbers summed up.
Yes, because there's
meeting.
all sorts of other various items
Yes.
that we may not be cognizant of that we need to make sure the surety is able to cover.
All right.
We need an
And as
action
long as we
item
get done
on
the stuff
this
that they don't
for
need
the
to
next
cover, let's
meeting.
get it done.
Yes, sir.
And we need all the information.
I think what.
We'll have it by then,
what
of the
we've heard
complete
staff
estimate.
suggest is that they want to move more quickly than the next meeting.
And they have.
Do we need to make a motion to approve that?
This is discussion only.
No, it's discussion
So
only.
direction to staff, go
and
get
as
it
Serena
done.
said, they've already made the decision to do
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Just in the future, much earlier.
So-
much earlier.
To me, a red flag early on, and I know several of us had mentioned this to staff, talking about the liquidated damages that the company was facing that was mounting over a period of months. And it was like, I know I asked at least once or twice about, are we planning on waiving those because they're making the good faith effort to continue the work? Well, given the fact that the work was being drug out and that there's a clear upside down relationship in terms of the money that they're working to get versus the liquidated damages that they're incurring, that in hindsight at least, it seems obvious that, well, the only way to protect myself from that is to declare bankruptcy so that you can't make me pay for work that I did for you too slowly. I don't know.
Well, we're just paying
Yeah.
for work completed,
Okay.
so.
So
Yeah.
the point is, let's get the job done as quickly as possible. If you have more information, that will be helpful, and then bring back the numbers that council's asked you to bring back.
And if this schedule changes, even by a scintilla, please let us know ASAP. Because I'm telling you right now, I'll do backflips, maybe crack my neck while doing that. If you're able to go ahead and get it done, but I at this time frame, but it just seems.
I don't think you're going to hit June 1st.
Yeah, it seems like a very aggressive time frame.
It's a very ambitious timeline. And
Okay.
Rudy, if you do those backflips, I'll spot you.
We do have,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, we have two residents wishing to speak on this again. Rolando, come to the front.
My question is, y'all are talking about where's the funds for these porta cans coming from? Does anyone know the cost of how much it costs for those nice AC porta potties?
Yes.
It's about, what is it, 20 grand a month? Does anyone know?
No, Shane might be able to answer
About
that.
20 grand, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about 20 grand for 2 months.
For 2 months. And we've been paying for this for how many years? And so we're worried about money? We're pissing away money to a porta can. And all the ones, like Becca says, we have kids. It's just a life skill to learn to swim. Isn't it? Right? I mean, I'm just at all with the city, you know? I have a home and I have an investment property here. I pay my taxes every year. It blows me away. Like Caesar said, Amazon was done. Why don't y'all broker a deal next time when y'all offer the tax incentives for big business to build us a community pool? Is that too much to ask? Amazon could have built us 2 pools over if we would have brokered a better deal. It's just frustrating to me because I got pictures that I sent to Rudy, I sent to Mr. Mayor, and I sent to Mr. Caesar over there 2 years ago, and I can show them to y'all of the porta can. If a man were to go use number 2,
That was terrible.
his things would be floating in water. Just pardon my French, and that's disgusting. That porta can was made over the loudspeaker when we have a visiting swim team at our pool, our city pool. Please do not use the porta can that's blue. I show up on Tuesday, I take a picture, the porta can still has the same amount of waste in there. That's when I reached out to Mr. Rudy Mader. He happened to be at the pool. You could smell the stench across the pool. I mean, y'all, we have y'all provide a community city for the kids to go to a camp all summer. My oldest one went from the time he was able to go until he couldn't go any longer. He wanted to be a camp counselor for that, but we told him he didn't want to clean a porta can. And we don't even I have a 6-year-old that we would love to put him in there like we did our other kids. But I don't want my kid changing on a porta can floor. Do you want your children doing that? I mean, how many people up here sitting on the city council have children that use that pool once a week or 4 days a week?
Well, I can say that all 3 of my kids learned to swim at that pool.
But you had a working pool problem. You had a working restroom.
It was before the
Right.
flood.
I had parents and I had a local plumber. When we were having problems with that restroom, we came up with about $30,000 and we were going to just fix it ourselves. The city told me, don't worry about it. We're going to get this repaired in a year. Here we are 5 years later. This is unacceptable, guys. And then to top it all off, we swam last summer. We have our local swim team, the Piranhas, is a great thing for our kids.
Thank you, Rolando. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Duly noted. Did you want to speak again?
Yes, please.
You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I mean, I just have a couple questions, and I don't even know if she's still here. Did she leave?
Okay.
Anyways, if you had been to the pool, you would see that it hadn't been done. If you walked around, I have been at that pool since September of 2023, and you could see that there was no progress. So I don't understand, who's accountable? Who is accountable for this? Have any of y'all walked around that pool at all?
Absolutely.
And so you're saying, well, we didn't realize that they were going to declare bankruptcy, but like, have y'all walked around? It was supposed to be done. Who didn't ask the questions? Because all the parents have been asking the questions. And when they ask people, we don't get responded to on Facebook, or we don't get responded to when we call. Who's in charge? Who? Who's in charge of the pool? Who was in charge of the construction, and why didn't they go to the pool and oversee it? I don't think that woman had been to that pool except for like last week. And that's just unacceptable.
Yeah.
It's not okay. And I'm not saying it's all on her because she came in October. Like, it should have already been done. She can't be the scapegoat. It's not okay. There should
Right.
be other people that should have been there and that should have been looking and that should have been checking up on the progress. And it didn't happen. This is a huge amount of money. A huge amount of money for the entire city. This is where swim lessons happen. This is where camps happen. And not just the swim teams, but like all 4 of the high schools swim at that pool. And so you want them to do great and go to state, and they have poor conditions to practice in. How are we doing better as a community? How are we going to, up these swimmers and get them to where they want to be?
Absolutely.
And we're sitting here with porta potties.
And we're renting pools from other communities.
We're having to rent. We're paying. So Gilliland increased the amount of money that Piranhas now has to pay this year. Why? We don't even have a working facility. She said that it's going to be done at the end of May. There is absolutely no way. Like, if you go over there tomorrow, you can tell there is no way. Now, would it be nice to have fencing around it and make sure that it's safe? Absolutely. Would I be happy with that? Yeah, that's like a low bar, and it's very sad that I'm going to be happy with that. But are they going to have working facilities? No, there's no way. There's absolutely no way. And it's very sad. And it's very frustrating. And our kids deserve better. Our 7-year-olds, our 5-year-olds, our 18-year-olds, they deserve better. The pregnant women walking around having to pee every 3 seconds, they deserve better. And it's not okay. And I'm just very frustrated. And I'm very, I don't want to scapegoat in a person because it's not completely her fault when she comes on in October and it should have been done. She's not the scapegoat. She's not. Now, should she be calling everybody? Yeah, she should.
Rebecca, thank you very much. And believe me, we are accountable for that. I can't offer any other response other than that. And I'm sorry that you're having to go through that. I mean, I grew up in Pflugerville from day one, and we didn't have a pool. But, yeah, that's disheartening. I'm sorry.
And I get it, because we're gonna have those swim meets that we have going on, the swim lessons. I mean, Pflugerville's well known on this stuff. Did not know about the Piranhas price.
I mean, do we have a backup plan in case the pool's not ready, or y'all ready to have?
That is,
Because that's a process.
you know what?
We got-
Rolanda, I'm sorry, I'll have to cut you off, but we'll have that information for you. Okay. All right. All right. I'd like to move on to 7. Trista, you're going to have to help me because I'm jumping around here, but I'm going to 7E because we have the Rotary Club members here, and I want to keep them all night long. Discuss and consider action for tourism funding for Wild West Brew Fest sponsorship. And Eli, is that you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and esteemed members of the Pflugerville City Council. I'm honored to stand before you today to introduce the Wild West Brew Fest and shed just a little bit of light on the significance it has on our community. My name is Elijah Alborn, and I'm blessed to be the chairman of the Wild West Brew Fest. I have 4 main points this evening. We'll start with number 1, just a little introduction. The Wild West Brew Fest is an annual event originally initiated 13 years ago by the Rotary Club of Katy that celebrates the vibrant culture of craft brewing, bringing together enthusiasts from across the region to indulge in a diverse array of beers, ciders, and wines. Beyond being a celebration of craft brewing, it also serves as a platform for community engagement, fostering connections and supporting local businesses. Last year, building upon the success and vision of its inception, we expanded the Wild West Brew Fest here to Pflugerville. It was a no-brainer. Being right on that 130 corridor, we had easy access to guests coming from San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth, the airport, and everywhere else. This expansion was driven by a shared belief in the importance of fostering community connections and supporting local businesses. It's important to note that the Rotary Club, which is the world's largest service organization, remains at the heart of the Wild West Brewfest. The Rotary Club of Pflugerville, made up of individuals like myself, dedicated to giving back to their time and resources to make a meaningful impact in the city of Pflugerville. Point number two, or bullet point number two, I should say. Today I come before you to humbly request the support of the city of Pflugerville in sponsoring this important community event. Last year we were blindsided by unexpected fees imposed by the Austin Public Health Department. This year we wrote a check for those fees totaling $13,440. These expenses have placed a strain on our resources, limiting our impact to the community of Pflugerville. Last year we graciously received a sponsorship from the city of Pflugerville through the Pflugerville Chamber of Commerce that was used based off of tourism funds. As we stand before you today, we're not just seeking support for an event, we're asking for your partnership in fostering tourism and economic growth within our community. The Wild West Brewfest has become a beacon, drawing people from neighboring states and beyond to our city. So far this year, we have already sold tickets to guests in California, Illinois, Colorado, Missouri, and Washington. We're not only showcasing the vibrant culture and hospitality of Pflugerville, but also bolstering our local economy. With your generous sponsorship, we're not only investing in an event, you're investing in the prosperity of our city. Your support will enable us to continue attracting visitors, stimulating local businesses, and cementing Pflugerville as a premier destination for craft brewing enthusiasts. The city of Pflugerville will be our official rideshare sponsor, promoting Fetch a Ride program throughout the park and featuring a tent on the exterior of the event where guests can wait in the shade, have a free water, and wait for their ride to come pick them up. The city of Pflugerville will also be the official sponsor of what we call our Snake Pit. It's a major hub right as an L where the main stage is. It's a major event where there's local breweries, local vendors, but it's right where everybody congregates. Therefore, I kindly ask the City Council to consider donating up to $15,000 as a sponsor to help offset these fees and ensure the continued success of Wild West Brewfest. Point number three. Furthermore, I'm going to ask the City Council to explore avenues to amend our contract with the Austin Public Health Department. Events such as the Wild West Brewfest, along with our community gatherings like Deutschenfest, the Chamber of Commerce Expo, Slice, Pride, Juneteenth, all contribute immensely to the cultural fabric of our city. However, the recent actions of APH, effectively extorting money from event organizers.
What took you so long to make that request?
I asked it last year. You were the person I talked to. They're extorting the money from these event organizers.
Absolutely.
And are detrimental to the ability to thrive.
Absolutely.
I implore the City Council to take a stand and advocate for fair and reasonable terms that support the vitality of our community events, ensuring they can continue to enrich the lives of our residents. My final point. Finally, I extend a heartfelt invitation to the mayor and to City Council members and all city officials to join us at the Wild West Brewfest this Saturday. Your presence would not only honor our community, but also demonstrate your commitment to supporting the local initiatives that contribute to the well-being and prosperity of Pflugerville. I thank you very much for your time and consideration. Together, I think that we can work towards creating a vibrant and thriving community where events like the Wild West Brewfest continue to flourish.
Thank you. I have one question.
Yes, sir.
How many people were the total attendees last year at the event?
Yeah, perfect. Last year we guesstimated right about 1,700.
1,700.
This year, right now, we're on track to see between 2,200 and 2,300.
And do you have any estimate of how many of those are from out of town?
Yes, right now, so far, like I mentioned, we, as far as I can tell you that we've had, like I said, tickets from Washington, Illinois, California, Missouri, Colorado. We've had tickets sold in Houston, San Antonio, Temple, Salado, all the neighboring cities. To answer your question on the exact number, I do not have that right now, because what our ticket platform shows, it's one purchase, and they could have 3 tickets in there. So I just see the one purchase. I know so far, I know heads and beds is important, right? When we're talking tourism, we got to get people to the city. Last year we utilized 9 hotel rooms that we had set aside as our block. So far this year, we've already had 21, which we know, I already got an email earlier this evening needing more hotel rooms. But the big thing is the vision of what this will be. Last year in our event, we had, it was great. We had 1,700 guests. We had over 68 breweries show up, which is phenomenal. When Katy started this, they had 1,300 guests on their first year, and they had 16 breweries. This past, almost 3 weeks ago, Katy held their Brew Fest, like they always do, the Rotary Club of Katy. They had 7,900 guests come through. They netted $135,000. And they, so far in the last 13 years, they have given $1.35 million back to the community of Katy. From day one, the chairman of their event in Katy has said, Eli, Pflugerville will be bigger than Katy by year 5, without a doubt, because of where we're at, because of our being on that 130 corridor that we've talked so much about, because of all the breweries that we have in this central Texas market.
And this is a one-day event,
This is a 2-day event.
2-day event.
And to this year, for the first time, we're launching the launch party, which will be on Friday evening from 7 to 10 p.m. And then on Saturday, it is from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m., where VIPs gain access at 2 p.m. Now, I know one concern that has been brought up by the council in the past was the affordability. And one thing that Katy has done that we want to do very near in the future is what they call, they have an event on Thursday, which is completely free to the public. And that is our goal, to slowly ramp up and build this and do it the right way.
What year did they do the Thursday event, bud?
They said they started that, I believe it was year 10. And I think we can beat them tremendously on that. And so one of the things that we're doing is this was the first time last year that this event ever was held outside of Katy.
Yeah.
We didn't know how to do it. It was basically, look at this event, come see what we do, now go put it on in Pflugerville. And I thought we did one heck of a job. It was resounding success. We had over 90% satisfaction from our guests that attended last year, with over 92% saying they'll be back this year. One of the things that we learned a lot. We learned what marketing works, what marketing doesn't work. You know, we were blessed to be able to be on Fox News Good Day Austin this year. We were on Bob FM, KLBJ. And so we did a lot of advertising, and everything talked about Pflugerville, 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 getting people here to the city.
Need to get you guys on KAZI.
Eli, can you define for me, you said it was a resounding success last year. Can you define what that means to you?
Correct. For me, the amount of breweries that came was a resounding success because of the fact of we're the new guys. They're just down in Austin. There's something called the Texas Craft Brewers Guild, which for the longest time has been the largest brew fest in the area. It's held in Fiesta Gardens, and the breweries do not like it. And the reason being is because one little drop of moisture, it becomes a mud pit. When it's 100 degrees out, they charge for water, and you have to find parking. And there's a couple things that we're very protective as far as our brand of Wild West Brewfest, that parking is always going to be free, is that water and non-alcoholic beverages are always going to be free, and we're always going to make sure we take care of our breweries. Last year, for year 1, Katy, for example, in their year 1, they didn't get to give a profit. It took them almost 3 years before they had a profit. Last year, we netted $13,181 in year 1.
And that was after paying about $18,000 to.
We paid $19,100 last year to APH.
Serena, remind me how many estimated attendees we had at Pflugerville Pride last year and the year before?
8,000. 8,000 is what we looked at our geofence, and we're also charged the $280 for Deutsche all of our festivals. And just to clarify, that contract is up in fall of 24. We'll be bringing forward hopefully some other options for you, but APH has not been willing to negotiate on that rate, as you all attempted to do so before. But we are looking at other entities I don't know if it'll be any better or not yet.
And as I remember when we had APH here and we talked very politely with them, threw their counsel under the bus. Basically, they said that they were simply executing the legislative standards that Austin City Council had affected, and that there was no opportunity for them to change their fee structure. What we did find out was that we could have our farmers market declared. There's a state law that says you can do special designations for a farmers market, and so our farmers market vendors don't have to pay the egregious fees. Is there any way that Brewfest won't qualify as a farmers market? No.
I was going to say, I thought you were
But
going
wait,
down the
they're
path-
selling weed, aren't they?
I thought you were going down the pathway that they threw their counsel under the bus, and then when you contacted their counsel, they said, "We had no idea. This makes sense.
So
Let's talk about this."
Couple things is one is that when we're also lobbying, because we are part of Texas Craft Brewers Guild, and so we have attorneys that are lobbying with Austin for the same thing.
Sure.
And what they said is Mayor Watson said, hey, at this time, we're not increasing, we're not decreasing, everything's staying right where it's at. Another thing is this, we could take this event and do it somewhere else. If it's in Pflugerville, but outside of Pflugerville city limits, this event is completely free. When Katy did this event in Katy this past year, and they had over almost just shy of 8,000 guests, and over, I believe they had 87 breweries, they paid $60 to permit the whole thing with their health department.
But if you had it over at the Seal store, it'd be no fee.
Let's. You know exactly how I feel about this. We've had this discussion about APH and their. And we talked about this when we. How many years ago was this?
Well, I think we discovered how big this problem
7 years.
was.
No. Literally, when they came here originally, when we were back in the old days, I said, no, let's negotiate now because what they're doing now is going to set the tone for moving forward. And it's ridiculous. It's repugnant. I don't blame. I mean, I've had a conversation with Kurt, so we can talk offline about that as well because they're.
We
Obviously,
had the guy out here, Rudy. I mean, he sat here and he talked.
No, I'm saying I had a
conversation.
I'm saying I had a conversation with Kurt afterwards.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, I called
and
that
I'm-
guy out, and everybody still on this dais, the majority voted to go back with them.
You did too.
Huh?
You did too.
I did not.
You changed your vote so that it would.
Anyway,
I understand. I understand the reason.
They're
I understand the reason why, and I've asked a lot of the questions. And this was originally done to help food trucks in Pflugerville, which I completely understand. When I met with the health department last week about this event when we wrote them the check. She originally called me and looked at it and goes, "You're in Pflugerville, perfect. This is free." And then of course on my drive home, she called me and said, "Oh, you're inside Pflugerville city limits. You owe us $13,440. She also let me know that, and I asked her, I said, because she said she had to go back and look at our contract, and she said that we did not, as a city, have anything in place to give any breaks to non-profit organizations.
Yeah. No, it's repugnant. It's disgusting. It just is.
Okay, I
And
mean, we
this
can
is our
debate.
opportunity to
Yeah.
give a break to a nonprofit organization.
We can debate this APH thing till the
Yes, sir.
sun rises
Well, so
tomorrow.
we'll make some changes with APH going forward. In the meantime, I move that.
Well, before you make that motion, sir, are you asking the city to write you a check for $15,000?
Yes, sir.
So and staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that we've ever written a nonprofit a check. Any sort of we've done reimbursement things. I know. No, we've done like in-kind support for traffic control. Help me understand how we've supported nonprofits in the past, and is this ask in line with previous asks?
We have not written checks. We do all of our work in kind for festivals. So we've never written a check and handed it to someone for a festival. So, no.
Because my loving relationship with the Rotary Club of Pflugerville aside, I have an issue with writing a check to a for-profit or even a nonprofit, even though I know we're raising the money for scholarships and supporting other nonprofit entities like the libraries program and whatnot. I get that, but I have a hard time allocating city money, public money, to support a nonprofit in raising money, because it seems like that's setting a precedent for every nonprofit to come back here and saying, well, hey, we put on this great Pflugerville Pride Festival and we brought in 4 times as many visitors, and we can geofence that and tell you how many of them didn't originate from Pflugerville, which I think is over half based on what I remember, but it's cloudy, so don't ask me to guarantee that. But not, you see what the precedent that you're asking us to set here. I don't know how to justify that. Okay.
Yeah, here's the big thing is we know that the model that we've seen in the past, the city of Katy happens to be one of the largest sponsors for this event in Katy. They put out over $30,000 into this event. And again, when I was there 3 weeks ago and I saw their mayor get up on stage and talk about this event and how it's turned that city into a destination event, I texted half my crew, my captains, and I said, Mayor Gonzalez needs to be up there this year. We need that. We need our city council up there showing support, not just for this, for every event that we hold, whether it be Pride, whether it be Juneteenth, any event that we need or we have in the city of Pflugerville, we need to show the support for that. And I understand your concern. That's why I'm asking for the dollars out of, the tourism to help support a tourism event.
What is that? Out of hot or out of
He's
general
not for
fund?
hot. You're asking. He's asking for hot, right?
I would assume so.
So that's for advertising and promotion? Because that's the.
So hotel tax fund, as you know, is restricted in how it can be used. And I assume that's what you mean as the hotel tax fund.
Okay. Sure, and it's restricted to very specific purposes. So what purpose would these dollars?
I believe this would be a Bible.
Okay, well, we just need an agreement in place so that the funds are spent appropriately if we do decide to do it.
I mean, there's some other options, if I may, Mayor. We could offer up Fetch a Ride and do a $5,000. It is an alcohol event, and so we would be happy to use Fetch a Ride for all of the patrons that are there, and we could pitch in $5,000 to support that. We could look at hotel tax reimbursement. Maybe one. So for those rooms, we reimburse however many rooms come in. Those might be a little simpler. You just have to be able to prove that it's public good. Is that right, Charlie?
Public purpose,
Public
which is
public
pretty easy to
purpose for the
prove.
use of it. But there's some options maybe other than writing a check for an event that occurs.
Yeah, the
Friday.
hotel tax has very specific requirements and specific restrictions on use of those dollars for tourism. I think off the top of my head, it's limited to advertising, so we would need.
There's 7 things that it can. 8 things.
Right, but tourism only lands in one of those things, I think, and I think it's advertising, so it would have to be for advertising purposes. And of course, we'd want an agreement to ensure that those funds are spent consistent. Since you're the stewards of those dollars, that they would be spent consistent with the requirements of the hotel occupancy tax. And if it's general fund dollars, then it just needs to meet a public purpose, and we need to have control over however the dollars are spent according to the AG and case law opinions, which would also necessitate an agreement that ensures that the dollars that we provide them are spent consistent with the way that we would ask for them to be spent, just to meet the public purpose.
So Charlie, on this agreement, would that have to come back to council?
No, not if you
approval?
approved it. Not if you approved it tonight.
Okay.
I wouldn't have to come back to council, but we certainly need to have details of what the money is to be spent on and how it's to be spent. That would be helpful.
My feeling about this is that they're having to pay this $13,440 to APH because we didn't make a change in a timely fashion. We didn't set up our own in-house. We didn't contract with somebody else to do it. we dropped the ball and they're having to pay for it. So I think the 13,440 the city should cover to reimburse them. Beyond that, I would suggest that we do an in-kind up to X amount fetch a ride contribution as a in-kind non-cash contribution. So I'm certainly open to any suggestions about what the X amount for fetch a ride should be. I don't have a good sense of what would be appropriate there. Madam City Manager, do you know, we're looking at hundreds of people going to and from the Wild West Brewfest. How many of them are going to use Fetch a Ride?
Not many.
You know, I can't guesstimate that. What do you know how much Fetch a Ride was used for Pride? If it was 8,000 people, we could divide that by 4 and say that's a
60 people.
It hasn't been used to the level that we.
A lot of people don't know about it.
So
there needs to be a lot more.
Why we need a tent there. So
We want to have, our goal is, I've already got them designed off of the sign that I got last year. And we have almost like a yard sign, open house sign. And I've got almost 25 of those ready to be printed so we could have those all the way around, advertising Fetch a Ride with the city logo on it. And let people know about it. Because when I talk about that at events all across the city, no one even knows that it exists.
all right.
Reimburse a portion of the cost associated with those.
Council, any other questions or comments or concerns?
my main question is, can Councilmember Rogers make that in the form of a motion?
Well, I'm looking for
I
a little
heard,
more
was it
information before I formalize it.
Was it 13,440?
13,440 plus X related
I would
to
say
Fetch a
another
Ride.
1,500 to round it out to roughly the ask.
Eli, what's your number?
I asked for 15,000.
I asked for 15. Obviously, it's up to us what we do, but 13,440 plus Fetch a Ride in the amount of $1,500.
So I'm just. What is it again? How much?
15,000.
Motion to approve 15,000 for Wawa West Brewery Fest reimbursement.
Brewery Fest.
Yeah.
How about reimbursement for the cost associated with APH and as assistance for Fetch a Ride?
There we go. I like that.
That's my motion. Right there. Is that your motion or Rudy?
That's,
I'm good with
that's
that.
mine, and he seconded. So there we go.
I second both of y'all.
There we go.
All right.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm good, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So I think it easily meets your public purpose test. It's
Yeah,
just that we need
absolutely.
some-
All right.
And we get to have a come to Jesus with APH.
Or just replace them. I mean, I don't think we can.
Come to Jesus with staff.
I don't think they believe in Jesus over at APH, but I think we can find a replacement for APH, not for Jesus,
But
for APH.
it's probably okay.
Hey, wait a minute! You cut me out completely.
Oh my gosh! Just play yes. Just play yes.
Yeah.
It was, it was all over the place.
I think we're gonna be okay, y'all.
Okay, motion
I feel
carried.
like Rodney Dangerfield over here.
Thank
no
you very
respect,
much.
No respect.
And you guys will work out the agreement and whatever.
It'll be easy.
Figure out how to get the mayor on stage.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, Eli.
Are you busy Saturday, sir?
Let me check my schedule. I got my mother coming over. So.
We'll bring her with.
She's 95. I don't know about.
I don't know if she wants to be taken.
She's going to be the one we're going to have to keep off the dance floor.
Yeah.
Well, he can first.
Thank you very much, council, for your time.
Thank you, sir.
All right. You're welcome. 8:41.
We already did that.
I feel like we'll get out before time.
No, we're not. Okay, I'm going to make another adjustment here because, well, first of all, does anybody need a break? I need a break. We're going to take.
I love the way you put it up.
Never mind.
Rotary.
I may have four. Here we go. We're kind of all here.
98.
All right. I am going to bring back up 7G discussion regarding planning for and managing advanced life support emergency medical services with the City of Pflugerville. City managers requesting direction from council. And if we have staff that needs to be present for other questions. I think in our discussion earlier, so do we have all the real numbers? I said when we come back with numbers that have more reality to them. So, I mean, numbers are numbers, guys. I mean, I that's all I can say about that.
Sure. So I think just a little bit of clarity. I think right at the end there was kind of two questions asked at the same time, and we answered one of them. We'll let you decide which one we answered. But the reality is we've received these numbers from the agencies, directly from them. And so what we really are hoping to get from y'all is, who would you like us to pursue? Who would you like us to negotiate with? That's really the direction that we're looking for. But the numbers that were presented tonight are
Okay.
from the agencies that we
So you're looking for who do we pick to move forward? Okay.
So is there anything wrong with us reaching out and negotiating with both Allegiance and ESD2? Is that, I mean, does that take up too much staff time?
Not at all.
Are you talking about negotiating so we can come to
Bring it-
one final
Yeah,
candidate?
bring us the deals.
Well,
And then let us decide, as opposed to trying to decide with some, although good estimates, it's not inked, right? And so, like I said, the last time that we had this discussion, there were a lot of preliminary discussions and numbers thrown about. And some of us felt like some of the numbers that we were told at one point were changed. But it was probably my fault for looking at them from a different perspective. I know that going into the discussion with the ESD2 board, we didn't anticipate that they would ask us to do the collections. And so there's some deal points that potentially we need to ink so that we're making a decision based on all we need to do now is sign or fill in a blank with a number or whatever. And so I think we've got enough interest in both in pursuing agreements with ESD2, which I think staff has identified as the best solution.
The preferred vendor.
If it were no cost, it would be ideal, but we know that we're not going to end up at no cost. So let's enter into negotiations with both ESD2 and with Allegiance, and let's have everyone sharpen their pencils. I'm not asking for a bidding war, but let's have them sharpen their pencils and tell us, what the devil's in the details, right? So let's get some of the details inked. And can we get that back in 2 weeks, you think, or do we need 4?
I like where you're going. I'm under the impression that the policymaking body at Travis County might be interested in a number that's different than what we've got from the agencies. Is that something that we want to pursue?
I think that's a discussion point. Absolutely.
Is that something you want staff to discuss with, or are you talking about us?
Just spit it out. I mean, just tell
No,
us.
no,
What are you talking about?
I think that I believe there is interest from Travis County in seeing us work together to try to agreement regarding the, what do you call it? How long is the range? Is it $1 to $2 million or $2 million, whatever the wide range is on the price?
Well, I mean,
700 to 4 million,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I guess the question being, do we want to ask the Travis County Commissioners Court to subsidize this service like they do in every other jurisdiction?
Man, that sounds like a very good thing. And
Well, Jim's
possibly one of us
proposal
may have already
gives
done
us
that.
time to come up with any of those options.
Well, what was the answer if one of us have already done? What was the answer that one of us might have gotten when they asked that question?
Or are you waiting for an answer?
What's the price point? And let's talk tomorrow.
Okay, all right, so I think we want to talk to all three possible vendors then.
3.
So that we
Oh,
can-
you mean Austin Travis EMS too as well? With
Yeah.
us?
All right, well, Travis.
Yeah, I'm
Does
not
that-
clear on who the county would be interested in subsidizing, because obviously one price is much lower than the
Yeah,
others. One they have an existing relationship with. Two they have an existing relationship with.
Yeah, they have two people there.
Well, I don't think they're the ones to decide who they're willing to subsidize. We're the ones that are trying to decide who we want to go with and if they will subsidize the vendor of choice that we have. So it's either yes or no. It's not a matter of having the county commissioner say, well, we'll subsidize Travis County, Austin Travis County EMS, but not the other two.
Right.
Well, we may not want to go that way.
Well, they may only be willing to subsidize, their service provider
Well,
that
yeah.
they control. I
Well,
could
that's
see
an
where they
assumption.
wouldn't want to subsidize anybody
Yeah,
else.
I
That's
don't
an
think we.
Let's let them tell us.
Yeah.
I don't remember where ATC EMS factored in the quality scale, the quality ranking. I don't.
They had.
I think they were at the top.
They had faster response times.
Yeah.
As of
8
the data.
years ago.
Well,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
8 years ago.
7
when
years
you're-
ago.
Okay, you guys don't get hung up on response time. I'm telling you, I don't think that's a factor.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Quality of care is most important.
Quality
Well,
of
they
care,
certainly
training,
have,
knowledge.
they're widely regarded as very good quality of
Well, I think
care.
I think everybody's averaging in the same
I don't know.
arena, but again, don't let that be a.
So guys, if you're negotiating and reaching deal points on 2 contracts,
How
how much
more
is
work
it
is
complicated to do 3?
I don't know that I fully understand the third one.
Right.
He's talking about Austin Travis EMS.
Yeah,
See,
ATC EMS.
to flesh it out, because essentially,
Sure.
what we understand from what Soren has explained to us is that these figures are given, and what I can't remember who said it, but somebody was asking about, can you break down what that actually looks like so we can get about that? And I don't remember who said that.
Oh, well, I
think there was the mayor.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
know.
I just know that they consistently, ATCMS consistently comes in higher, and they've even called ESD2 and asked them, how do you do it so cheap?
Well,
They've even called other vendors,
And
so
the
I don't
last
see
time
them
that
coming down.
ATC EMS spoke before this body, it was this is what it is.
Yeah.
Right? This is how much it's gonna cost. There was no waffling
Right.
or if we get inter-facility transfers, we'll reduce that. There was none of that. It was, this is the cost.
And frankly, it's the same price per ambulance, whether it's ESD2 or
Right.
ATC EMS.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like your original proposal.
I'm happy with moving
Two versus
forward with just
Yeah.
negotiating with the 2, honestly.
All right, I would agree.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to be clear. Are we also directing staff to communicate with the commissioner's court?
I think we need to, I don't know if that's
I
a
think
staff.
I think the mayor had that right. I think that let's go with Sledger. I don't think that's a staff.
That's not a staff
Yeah.
negotiating.
Are we directing our legislative committee to go do that?
Our legislative committee is not well connected at the commissioner's court.
Okay, then maybe we should change the legislative committee.
That seems like it's not suited to purpose.
Okay. Wait.
I mean, no, if the legislative committee is not willing to do the legislative committee's job, what's the point of a legislative
I'm
committee?
sorry,
Okay.
it's the legislature.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any kind of legislation.
Travis County commissioners are not the legislature.
Okay.
I think a few
They
of
might
us
think they are.
Okay, guys.
I think a few of us are connected to our various county commissioners and judges. And we can reach out to them and
Yeah.
have conversation, test the water, to see where we may be.
We'll
Yeah.
expect
General
council to
reimbursement.
report back
Well
to
said.
staff on
Well
that
said.
so
And
that
we will-
Absolutely.
negotiations can move forward
Feed that
before the next
information
meeting.
back to our point of
You,
contact
you'll
on
have that
staff.
information back by early next week.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay.
Let's put a timeline on that too.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Is that
And
okay, Serena? Okay. just making sure.
ESD2, thank you for waiting. And you'll be back, I'm sure. All right, let's move on to something more exciting. Let's see here. 7A, discuss and consider action approving the Pflugerville Community Development Comprehensive Economic Development Strategic Plan, SEDS 3.0.
Yes,
You
sir.
have 5 minutes.
Yes, sir.
37 seconds.
And 37 seconds.
Yep.
Mayor, members of the City Council, my name's Amy Madison, Executive Director of Pflugerville Community Development Corporation. Please excuse the hair.
Did you just say you had 37 seconds?
I do.
5 minutes and 37 seconds.
Anyway, we are here this evening as a repeat of some direction council gave us on February 13 to review the instructions that you did bring a carry to this evening so that as our consultant talks to you that you can see exactly how the changes were made. And he will explain what we've added from what you had prepared and given to us, along with we gave it a haircut.
When you said what we had given you and prepared for us, do you mean staff?
Yes,
Okay.
well, the two slides that were provided during the meeting on February 13, we took those and the direction that was in the meeting and then brought that back as this final product. This was approved by the PCDC on January 17, forwarded to you on February 13, and then we're back again tonight.
And what I want to reiterate is that I really appreciate Ernst & Young, the robustness, the frankness, and the various different options that were made in the bigger report, because I thought that made a demonstrative difference over here as well. She's just trying to scare you right now. But
is that the dog? I've taken that dog home.
Yeah, looking forward to this conversation.
Well, good.
Okay.
Well, we're excited to have it here for you tonight.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening again, Mayor and Council. It's wonderful to see you. Tony DeLisi again with Ernst & Young. So, do we have a deck? Yes. So, quick summary, kind of what went through here. So, we heard from you a number of different directions. There was the condensed version, kind of executive summary that the city staff put together and adds some few different strategies than from what was in the original sets. A couple things in the original sets draft that were not in that. There was some specific direction given around strengthening the language to be more action focused, particularly in the workforce section, to review data that was put into this, reordering of goals, rethinking about some of this, reformatting to put the executive summary up front, the strategy and action areas up front, with all the rest of the research and the work that was done there further into the back. So all of that was incorporated. We added in those specific strategies that were included in that shorter executive summary version, including identifying supportive actions below that, revised existing strategies to be clearer, more action-oriented. We reorganized the report. There was matching tactical implementation tables provided that had been drafted previous to February, but were included in this, so you could see the initial draft. Overall, this is a strategy, but those tactical implementation tables allow the PCDC each year to look at how are we really going to move these strategies forward. They're meant to be flexible, revised as time goes forward, with the strategic direction really overarching in the SEDS. We reviewed the entire report, looking at content, confirming data, and providing some additional context notes within the SWOT, target industry areas, and provided some overall additional context and options all around. So, with that, all we have here essentially for presentation that was in the packet is the vision. Nothing has changed here in the vision statement that was presented before and discussed. I don't think there were any issues noted there. Noting that it overall aligns with the Aspire 2040 vision statement. Was meant to be the economic development action-oriented portion of that. Taking the quality of life section, kind of work through these. I don't want to go kind of one-to-one on all the changes, but making sure that we firmly called out the continuing furthering of the retail recruitment policy that was developed, that is going to be highlighted right at the top, and those actions that go behind that are the actual retail recruitment policy that has been agreed to. There was an addition, and we made a few changes to what was in the version, in the city manager's version, because there were kind of a little, apologies there, a little redundancy. There were two different portions focused on retail and park development, so we condensed those into one, focusing on funding park improvements and projects that bolster economic activity in the community. And it had been in there, but having that key word around economic activity to make sure that this is aligned with 4B guidance that the state has provided for how these funds are collected. Condensing one that was in the SEDS draft, and again with the city
I'm
manager.
sorry, can you stop there for a minute? park improvements do not have to be specific to economic activity under 4B, maybe under 4A, but not 4B.
Sorry.
I mean, I appreciate that you
Yeah.
put it in there, but I don't think you needed the belt and suspenders on that one.
Oh, no, they're two different things. Fund park improvements,
Uh-huh.
and then separate idea, and projects that bolster economic activity in the community. It's not fund park improvements that bolster
okay.
economic activity.
Okay.
Those are two different ideas.
And if I may, what we had written, and so I don't know if that matters or not, but it looks like it may have been replaced. I have different slides than what you have that we were sent today. Ours said fund infrastructure and land purchase opportunities in support of quality of life projects such as retail and park development.
And
So it's different.
these were reorganized somewhat, and this is where that was shifted. We had in the original draft.
Which one's the new version?
I'm assuming the one that we have in our hands. In our hands.
This was the version sent in the packet earlier. Yeah, and still here.
Okay, we received something today that was different, so I'm
This,
going off of.
we sent nothing today, so I'm not
You
sure.
did not, correct.
Okay. Keep going.
But yeah, so, well, I mean, the funds here that fund PCDC, the sales tax law, there are requirements that that money be spent related to economic development, and there's a general nexus that goes around with that, and that is what the economic activity statement in there. You know, the shifting that we did was taken, there was an original draft in the city manager, the version the city staff presented that said fund infrastructure and land purchase opportunities in support of quality of life projects such as retail and park development. There was another that was fund park improvements and programs to aid in additional economic development activity for the community. Because park development and park improvements were both referenced in there, we've thought to condense those somewhat to fund park improvements and projects that bolster economic activity. The infrastructure and land purchase opportunities was condensed into what was originally there around mixed-use developments, including infrastructure and land purchases to improve the shopping, dining, and entertainment options. We'd had a few different ones that covered these. We were trying to make it simpler and clearer and easier to follow. Cool. In turn, there was one that was included in the original strategy draft from us that was not in that version that we kept in with some shifting to make it clearer, but that created a unique brand and marketing campaign for PCDC, had been discussed. Again, focusing on the incorporating Pflugerville's unique story of diversity and inclusivity into marketing and community activities was something that had been presented and discussed as well as wanting to continue to be in this. And it was that we were asked to not make it evaluate but continue because there have been studies done around the competitiveness of Pflugerville's development fees and timelines relative to other regional cities.
Can I ask a question on that? We
Mhm.
had asked to remove that because we already do that on the staff
Yeah.
side.
That's why it was continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was
That sounds fine.
yeah.
Go ahead.
We were asked to recognize that it is an ongoing activity.
Cool.
Sorry. On the business recruitment side, there were some of these where, let me find the specifics. Purchase land along key corridors. There were some slight word changes, but nothing significant. On number 3, incentivize companies. The original draft that we saw was incentivize industries that have the greatest potential to provide jobs and positively affect the quality of life in Pflugerville. Generally speaking, the guidance we've received for some time is that we don't want to incentivize jobs, period, but want to be focusing on those higher wage jobs, those jobs that are going to be creating more of those opportunities that can have people stay and work in the community that might be commuting out. But overall, saying that higher wage jobs and aligning with Pflugerville's community vision. On the first one there, that was a rewriting on a focus here. The true actions that were in the original sets, trying to make this more action oriented. The draft didn't really speak to the strategy itself, but it is that overall work that PCDC does every day of pursuing relocation expansion projects. That's through marketing, recruitment trips, working with Pflugerville's existing companies, Opportunity Austin, the governor's office, and others. The actual day-to-day items that are kind of bread and butter of economic development work. And then not really changed at all is that supporting an innovation entrepreneurship center and developing wet lab space through public-private partnerships, which was discussed during the last meeting.
Cool.
We did break back out in the draft that was presented from city staff. Talent and education had been taken out. There were only the two categories around quality of life and business. We put that back in because we were asked to expand on the draft that had showed collaborate with universities, Pflugerville ISD, nonprofits, and private partners to strengthen workforce training opportunities within Pflugerville. That was recognized during the discussion as being fairly general, and there was also recognized that this original SEDS draft was a little too wonky in the sort of workforce development parlance and the language that was used, and trying to make that more clear. It was broken down into more clear, specific strategies on what this entails. And that work is multifaceted. We had some discussion last time around this, but the work of developing talent and education and workforce development is a combination of trying to create skills for your residents so they can access jobs that might not be in your community today, as most folks go work outside of Pflugerville, but can earn them higher wages so they can continue to afford to live in Pflugerville. At the same time, building up those skill sets that are going to help attract more businesses here that can utilize their skills. If, say, they're working at a Samsung or a Dell or others, the skill sets are being built here, which helps you attract companies. In turn, you're building that training pathways that help you attract companies because they're looking for you to have those assets in place at the ISD, potentially through a four-year university and others, so that if a company comes, they know they can utilize those to grow their workforce, to continue that pipeline. So overall, trying to hit this from all those different angles to really help the residents of Pflugerville thrive, to attract in more businesses, and to build that sustaining pipeline. So one aspect is that barriers to work initiative. And I know it's easy to say unemployment is incredibly low right now, but part of that is many people are still employed in jobs that don't pay very high wages. We know from talking to employers throughout this region that they're having incredible difficulties finding people with the right skill sets to hire, whether that's at Tesla, Samsung, other locations. And so finding those ways to help people access those training opportunities to get higher paying jobs, things that allow them to stay in increasingly unaffordable, often community and parts of the region. The other side is that career readiness and engagement of local industries to really help the businesses that are here who have expressed these things to us, businesses finding difficulty, finding workforce. So how do they better engage industries with the talent development process, with the ISD, with other areas? Part of that includes those short-term earn and learn training opportunities, which are growing across the country. Really great opportunities for kids in high school, just out of school, to get those apprenticeships, those internships, get connected in, get paid to work. And part of that too is building support for the entrepreneurship and startup ecosystems. How do we support new businesses coming up here, getting the training that people need to start those businesses and really grow businesses in Pflugerville? Detailed out, it was worked out. Edgar on our team, coming out of the not community college system, but out of the college systems here in Texas, and really understanding this process of how do you recruit a four-year university to Pflugerville, both through the legislature, working with all the various partners and opportunities that looks like, spelled out in detail in that implementation table. And
that's
overall,
based on his own prior experience on how
yeah,
to do that.
and working with these across the state and talking to folks at the ISD and others, how do you do this? It's not as simple as saying, oh, they're interested, but there's jurisdictional issues and all kinds of things that go into how you go about that process. And then again, finally, partnering. It's not just kids that we're thinking about training, but adult education and reskilling. How can we use some of these facilities to provide training at night and other opportunities so that folks who might be working in a job that doesn't pay very high wages, doesn't have many career tracks, can find those opportunities to get that particular training, short-term credential, or other thing that's going to allow them to get a higher wage job. One of these things that's being created very rapidly by new employers here and throughout the region. So,
Tony, on number 5 there, why do we use the word university partner as opposed to just saying recruit a four-year university? What's the distinction that I'm missing there?
I don't know that there's one. Maybe it's, Edgar drafted one more than me. Maybe it would be that the university's not going to relocate. So you wouldn't be getting so you want them to partner here and open some type of a facility of their version. It's a partnership with them to put that in place, I guess. We could strike the word.
University that doesn't have a space right now.
Yeah.
Right. So it might be we partner with say, Texas A&M to open a
A
biological sciences
Yeah.
engineering
Yeah,
lab
and
that they don't already have, but it'd be just their biological services.
yeah, or you could get an extension campus of some form. You're not going to probably get every type of course that they offer in the full spectrum of a university system. It'll initially be some focused area.
Like,
Yeah,
the Texas A&M nursing campus in Round Rock,
yeah.
for instance.
Can you back up to the business recruitment and retention,
Yeah.
BRE? I think that the rest of council as well, just in terms of making sure that we move forward on it. Is there a way to quantitatively measure that, or I mean, do you have any suggestions in terms of measuring success for that item?
It's a tough one because it means that what are you trying to target in the types of development? I know
Right.
we've heard on one side that industrial space is becoming more limited, but if we're hoping to see less of the certain type of industrial development that you'd like, and you want to see it maybe on the more commercial and office space, it's really thinking through what that could look like or be. But office, as we've talked about in a lot of this, is a tough one to crack, and that's where a flagship space that is developed with one building, you don't necessarily own everything around it, but it's available, zoned appropriately, maybe under control, set up so that if people start seeing the interest and you're building the demand here in the market, they can build off of that. I think more you'd be thinking about some of the infrastructure needs and other things that might have to go into the growth that you want to see and targeting that type of purchase. But it's a tough one. You got to be very specific.
As an example, the city of Pflugerville has had 15 or more years of downtown action plans. I think we've published 4 or 5 different downtown action plans. And after this last one, we've acquired parcels in downtown, right? If you include where the existing city offices that originally were, I think the city controls at least 5 parcels downtown. And that was part of the revitalization of the downtown. We knew that we couldn't zone it so a specific business would come in there, but we knew that if we owned the property and a business wanted to come in there, we could incentivize the business that we wanted to.
Yeah.
Right? By providing land for them as part of an incentive program. And so if I'd like to see some specificity, and I mean the key quarters, that's ambiguous. Purchase. Is there any way to put more meat on that bone?
Yeah, I'll say this was one that was drafted from city staff, not as much from us, so it wasn't as particular with this because I think this is a challenging one to say exactly what you want to be doing. I mean, it's tough. I was just having a conversation with a city out of state around this where they're actually building an innovation district partnership with a state university that they own this property. They're doing it. It's hard for cities to be developers. Their frustration here is that it's co-owned university managed by the city and the university, and it's not always the easiest thing for a city to truly be a developer and understand these opportunities and these needs and push it forward and be intentional. And there's a lot of best practices around the country that we see of cities and other government institutions looking at their land and taking big, deep assessments on how do we manage this better? How do we get a master developer on a piece of property to actually do this and keep it moving forward with a focus on it every day of what infrastructure is needed to support the types of things we want to do? How do we make deals happen? I mean, it's a tough process. So,
Tony,
speaking vaguely about land in specific spots is
Tony,
tough.
not to catch up, but you brought up an interesting point, which you said about cities aren't necessarily the best developers of property.
That's right.
Yeah.
Is it? Do you find it that it's because of the skill set, on the staff? Do you find it because of the whims of council? Who one may think that we want this to be a theater, the other one's going to say this should be an industrial cereal plant. Like, it's interesting for you to say that because I always think to myself, especially when I think about Prosper, Serena, and like literally looking about how they built that city hall in the middle of just podunk nowhere, and they grabbed all that land all around it, so you have, just like you said, the pieces of the chessboard, and then what it looks like now. So I'm curious to know,
Yeah,
what is it that cities do that destroy their ability?
I think sometimes if you got a master plan development that you're working on, or say an industrial park, it's fairly straightforward. We got a predefined space, and if it's an organization like a PCDC or an economic development group that knows what they're doing to recruit tenants and build this out, it makes sense. Things like retail, that can be really challenging because retailers are looking at all kinds of things in their dynamics. So if you buy a plot of land and hope that it's going to be great for retail, you don't necessarily know what each retailer is going to want in terms of egress and access and proximity to their competition and all those other things. And so
Okay,
you're making
sure,
some
but-
assumptions.
But
Yeah.
by buying it and controlling it, knowing we were retail there, we prevent an apartment complex from being built there because we own
Yeah.
it. But we can't zone it out. But if we own it, then we can control that. And
I
so-
can't speculate
and so
on zoning.
I don't
on
want
this.
to.
It's not
That
mine.
would be if
Yeah.
you had a
I don't
council
wanna
who's
pick
tired
a-
of seeing apartment complexes.
I don't want to pick a fight on whether or not
Yeah.
municipalities are great at developing. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
we should be developers. I'm simply saying that if the citizens entrust us with guiding the growth of the city, right? Then owning key pieces of it in terms of being selective on what comes in there seems to benefit us as a community. And I was just wondering, and again, not
Yeah.
wanting to become a developer, right?
Yeah.
I want to be clear on that
It's
because
not
you
worried
said
about
that
us.
twice, and I'm like, no, that's
Yeah.
not my goal. I think the goal is simply to guide the growth, the development growth that comes along, and be selective in terms of what happens on those properties.
Yeah, and I think this is a nice guidance in that for the PCDC board and others, it's to look each year and say, what are we hearing are our pain points and our concerns, begin to identify properties in other areas that could alleviate those. And it is a bit general, but those concerns change. Is it, today it might be this type of usage or this particular frontage that we need for infrastructure that's coming up or other things where you're planning ahead, but you're able to react a little in the moment and have this be on your mind as you're making those plans.
It's also easier to annex those properties
I don't know.
if there's a single owner.
You could ask somebody more
Anyway.
qualified on that than I.
Thank you.
Cool. I like it.
If I can ask a question, let me go back to that sentence because I don't think I was clear. I just want to make sure because they're not seeing the slides of the city comments. You'll have that in front of you, printed and emailed to you last week. I'm just wondering if it got removed on purpose or if there was something. So we had stated based on council discussion earlier that to fund infrastructure and land purchase opportunities in support of quality of life projects such as retail and park development. But the word retail is now missing. So I didn't know if that was accidentally left off or.
Partially, well, we put it into 3, which was invest in mixed-use developments, including infrastructure and land purchase opportunities to cover that, to improve shopping, dining, and entertainment options. And yes, to some degree. So shopping, dining, and entertainment, I would guess, are qualified as retail, but partially to make this, a little clearer. Again, this is all discretion of the PCDC board and council in making decisions, to evaluate projects on a case-by-case basis to see if they are eligible under the statutes of the law to work on this, and not wanting to, to make it a little easier to consider that the word retail is not ideal in some.
Well, and let me, that's not what I'm doing. I'm sorry. When it said mixed use, I'm sorry, I read those commas as, because retail is not always in mixed use. So I want to make sure that sentence that we understand that, because it prefaces with invest in mixed use developments. So I want to make sure that y'all are reading that as not just in mixed use developments.
Yeah, the way I read it was that what he just said is that, hey, they bumped it out. They made it more robust from retail. I didn't take it as solely in mixed use.
I don't want to exclude
shopping,
Yeah,
retail.
No, I see what you mean,
Shopping
and that sentence could be adjusted. I also think some of what you're discussing is covered specifically in the retail recruitment policy, so we didn't want it to be
No,
too
the retail
redundant. Is
policy
that
does not discuss land purchase.
Okay, cool.
And then my other comment, I just make sure I'm being clear. I want to make sure. I think you said that we had deleted workforce, or we had removed the
As a
workforce
category.
bucket.
Yes.
But we did include that. I just want to go back to
Yeah.
that was included. It was not fully removed. It's included under business recruitment and retention of our recommendations on the second goal. So I don't want you to think that that wasn't accurate, that we removed it completely. It was just shifted into 2 pillars rather than into 3. Just letting you know.
I mean, I didn't find any offense with it in the first place, but okay, cool.
I just want to be clear.
Absolutely.
I like it, and I also like what Jim had to say about these corridors and why we have to start owning pieces of the chessboard, as Serena says, on that. And just be willing, as we said before, wait for the right thing. You know, not just be quick on the draw and anything else with it, but make sure it's something that makes sense for those areas.
And sometimes, you know, you just get a random opportunity, you know. The random opportunity that led to the park down at Pecan and 130. That was just an accident that fell into our lap. But, you know, the PCDC, backed by the wisdom of the council, including then Councilman Gonzalez, you know, went all in on that. And, you know, you don't know when those opportunities are going to come to you.
All right.
You can be looking for them, though, in a more systematic way than we were back then. And I think that is part of what you're talking about, Councilman McDonald, in terms of having a process or a metric.
Well, it's like when you know, the Comerica property came up for sale downtown, and we'd heard that they would be selling it, and we engaged someone to negotiate for us. And it didn't fall in our lap, but it was an opportunity, and you know, council at the time could have passed on it and said $800,000 is too much, and there were plenty of voices that said $800,000 was too much. I don't think they'd be saying that today.
Nope.
But
I don't think they're on this dice.
but council moved forward and made that purchase, and that gave us one of the squares in the chessboard, right?
Even David voted for it.
Was he here?
No, that was before I was there. That was before David. He was in the crowd yelling us on, spurring us on. Get it!
Completely unaware there was a Comerica back at the time.
But I think, yeah, to your point, it's, you know, these opportunities, I don't want to mischaracterize them as they fall in our lap. They are presented to us, and we say yes or no based on whatever reasoning at the time. But when opportunities come up to buy land, like the Pfluger tract, right? Same thing. I think you were here for that one. And people were saying,
I pushed really hard for that one, and
people were
that
saying
was,
whatever that amount was too much. And and
yes, they were, and there are still people saying that today.
And they will continue to say that forever.
So let me ask this, because what I really like is I like I like what you presented. I also really like I call it your back. I don't know what you want to call it. The original report. Like, I like how robust it is of the information. Serena, are we still, so any of that information that's in that report is still a part of this? This is just a condensed version of what we had in that report?
I think what you would be adopting based on the agenda item is the full SEDS report.
Okay, so it'd encompass everything. Because, I mean, the reason why I thought about that was because when I saw the wet labs, like, they gave a specific example of, hey, listen, you can do this right now. It's a market. You can go do something with it. They also gave, here's how you recruit a 4-year college. And I know it's not, like, written specifically in here, but, hey, that's stuff, good information on that right there as well.
A convenient moment here, too. I know I was speaking with Opportunity Austin folks, and they are right now doing a regional detailed assessment of wet lab demand and what that looks like, and that's information that you can specifically leverage without having to do your own specific feasibility study and integrate and kind of figure out what that looks like. So there's
That's
good
awesome.
moments here.
That's really cool.
Okay.
Are there other EDC type of entities that we want to seek partnerships with? I know that there's Williamson County has a partnership group.
They do.
And that's we've got property in Williamson County. Should we be including them here as well?
So, it's maybe a question for. Yeah. Okay. You want to answer it?
I mean, I think the answer might be we've tried, but they don't like us.
Okay.
And I paraphrase.
I think that it's always good to explore different kinds of partnerships, and I think Wilco would be one we have. They're a little bit apprehensive of having a community that has as much in Travis as, we've only got less than 100 rooftop in Wilco.
So you're trying to tell me we need to talk to our county commissioner up there, Russ Bowles?
Well, that would be a next step, that's for sure. I think one of the things that we had hoped for was that some of the recruitment effort that Wilco was doing as a result of Samsung and their trips that they were taking, and of course they were very well connected with the Samsung thing. But the concern we had was, how could we potentially get those leads as well? Because they're going directly to the source.
I mean, and to your point, they are literally taking their councils and everybody else, not just to
Exactly.
Samsung, but other places in
Korea.
Asia. Yeah, exactly.
And so we had hoped that Opportunity Austin, because they were part of that regional group, would be able to garner some of those leads, and if they didn't find locations in Wilco County, that we could get those over in Travis. So that was the original hope, and I think the intent as well in the very beginning. I don't know that that's happening.
And I was about to say, and what has been said to the new executive director of Opportunity Austin about this?
He's aware of it.
He's aware?
And I think the thing is that, if sometimes it's just a matter of working with the consultant that they have working with them based on their work with.
I just heard you tell me I need to text Ed. Okay, yes, there we go.
Well, I think certainly there could be more conversations there. I've had one with the executive director to discuss the possibility of us being part of this. Originally, I thought there was something in the bylaws that prevented it. If you didn't have so many rooftops, you couldn't be involved, or so many that much land mass. But he doesn't think there is anything in the bylaws that prevent it. So I said, let's take a look at this.
Because Williamson County has been very intentional about
Yes.
making sure all their cities
Exactly.
gaining their prosperous.
But, in economic development, we've always had the whole belief, and it's particularly in the Austin region, the five county region, is that if it's a win here, it's a win over there too. There's always something positive that comes from some one way or the other in a project that's landed when we're this close together. And so, looking at it from that standpoint, we try to not. We do strongly compete, but we also look at trying to be collaborative in our overall competition. So, and we're actually competing with other states and nations. So it's a good strategy, and it's always worked for us in the region.
Well, and one of the things, being on the Capital Area Economic Development group, one of the things we talked about there in every meeting is if there's 3 locations in the Austin MSA that are being under consideration, and it's narrowed down to one of those, well, then the 2 were excluded should then step forward and champion the one that's left, because if they are selected, then we're all going to win. And so we just, it's that
Right.
friendly competition, right?
It is.
I'm better
Well,
than
it's-
you until you're selected, then I support you as the best decision.
It's not real friendly behind the scenes. I mean, we fight for everything we get.
Sure.
And so, but if we finally lose, but if we lose to a neighbor and it keeps it in the region, then it's a huge win for us. Because normally, there's one project I would note that we really fought hard for, and we lost it because of the way the building was configured.
Right.
There wasn't anything we could do about that. But before that, we were competing with Tennessee. And when we went into that competition, we were going to prove one way or the other that we could do it better and we could bring it home. Even though they had lower costs at that point in that area, we were able to prove up our dereg electric rates and come and get closer. The end sum game was workforce. So, but when we got it back to the region, it was a win.
Right.
And even though we didn't take it down in Pflugerville, they took it down in another community, I won't name.
Yeah, absolutely. And
So that's a win.
Yeah, for real.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are we done?
Yeah. And any last questions or thoughts?
Okay.
What is this? Mark does.
Yep.
Okay. Motion to approve.
Second.
7A is presented. I already got a second. As somebody was waiting for me to dawdle through my mind as to what this was.
Motion carried.
Excellent job, Artisan Young. Staff, that's works.
Okay, moving on to 7B, discuss and consider action approving a PCDC professional service contract with TIP Strategies in the amount of $75,000 and authorizing expenditures not to exceed $50,000, matched by an additional $25,000 Texas Workforce Grant for Pflugerville Workforce Study, authorizing the PCDC Executive Director to execute same.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This is actually a repeat, a bring back from the March meeting. The TIP strategy study proposal materials that are in your packet today, you have already received a presentation on at the early March council meeting.
Was this the one that didn't have the executed?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion, well,
No, this was the one that was not on our paper to start with.
It was not what?
On our paper. It's on their structure, and there were debates as to whether or not.
That was the February, correct?
Yeah. So there were details in the previous one that have all been filled in on this one
Yes,
now.
and then in March, we brought it back with the extended scope.
Okay, come on.
Yes.
No, that was a different one.
I don't know. I thought there were two different.
I don't remember this
There were
one
two
not
different
being
ones.
fully.
There you go.
That wasn't that.
Yeah.
Okay, just.
Yeah, I'll give
No, I
you.
remember the discussion being whether or not this was worthwhile and whether or not it aligned with the sets.
Yes, and so when we brought it
Which-
back
and
in
the sales
March,
wasn't approved yet by
the consultant did expand the scope of work, which you all reviewed. And we were just waiting for the SEDS to be completed, and you asked us to bring it back once SEDS was completed for the third time. And so tonight, we do need to let you know that our board reviewed it in mid-March and approved it unanimously and asked us to bring it back to you for final consideration. And this will refresh your memory about the earlier March meeting that was shared with you on the scope of work.
Were all the board members there for the unanimous vote?
I believe so. It was
We
a
were.
7-0.
We
Correct.
were.
Could have been like
Move
two
to
people.
approve as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve.
That would be funny. Just you and Joe.
Thank you for correct recollection, refreshment. of
Motion carried.
recollections, Councilman Wise.
7C, presentation regarding the implementation of the City of Pflugerville Comprehensive Drainage Master Plan and Drainage Utility Fee.
Favorite subject.
All right, good evening. Again, I'm Katie Cam, the Assistant Director of Traffic and Transportation for the city. So as a refresher, City Council approved the Drainage Master Plan in September of 2023, which included a recommendation to implement a drainage utility fee to fund implementation of drainage projects throughout the city. We're presenting tonight to provide an overview of the proposed public engagement and fee implementation process. And we specifically want to receive feedback from y'all tonight, to the extent y'all feel comfortable to, on key aspects such as the schedule, including the public engagement, the fee amount that we would charge for the drainage utility fee, and the discretionary exemptions that would be granted to such entities such as cities, schools, and churches. And then we'll also, I'll hand it off to the consultant to kind of describe the process of engaging the public, including having a city champion, the creation of an ordinance to support the implementation of the fee, and how the public will be engaged with this. So I'm going to hand it off to Mark Lewis, who is right behind me. He's with Half and Associates. Oh, one thing I want to point out, that this was added to your dais right before the meeting, and it was specifically handed out because we want to emphasize that the feedback that's absolutely critical to get tonight is on the exemptions that I mentioned, the discretion exemptions, and then the fee amount, the $3, $6, and $9, and Mark will go into more detail on that.
I do have a math question on that. And you're probably going to explain this, and so I apologize if I'm getting ahead of you. I'm looking at the fee delta between 6 and 9. So an increase from 6 by $3 to $9 nets $19 million more in funding. I look at the next delta from 3 to 6, a $3 increase nets $19 million increased funding there. But if I presume that 0 to $3 is a $3 increase, it doesn't net $19 million. It nets $6 million. I've lost $15 million, or no, $13 million.
Maintenance and operation.
We're about to get an answer, and you stop.
No, those
CTAC cost.
Good question. So Nugent, who is helping us develop this fee, they used a debt service, so this would be paid back in the 20 years, and somewhere in that is where that money gets lost. I don't know that answer because I didn't develop these costs.
It's capital projects versus operating expenses.
I do know
the fee kicks off with operating expenses, and then we start adding capital.
Yeah, so the first $2 of the fee go into some operation maintenance. They do like some trucks, some staff, things like that, and then from there, so the $3 you only get $1 of that $3. It goes to capital projects, and then $6 you get $5 of that, or $4 of that.
So you're saying those operational expenses are that expensive?
$2, yeah, for the fee, and that was laid out in the drainage master plan. We had at the end our drainage utility fee feasibility study. I think that was the full title of it. Really long, but that was part of when we came to y'all many moons ago, a couple years ago. I think the first time that was part of the discussion, and we can bring that back to you and get that back to you if you want to read that again. But
Maybe
yes,
that might be good. You know, and I'm glad you broke down the various different options because we know how much we're paying the fees for water and wastewater, how they jumped up tremendously. And we know they're still going to continue to go up, and so it makes me very apprehensive about what other fees, what other things we're trying to get on. Particularly when you're hearing about, we were just talking about the senior citizens and folks over there who are on fixed incomes earlier this meeting. We were talking about space and everything else from there. That has me really concerned, and so I'm glad that you gave the various different options on there as well. And maybe you need to go back, if you can, in our weekly packet, send back that.
yeah, we can give y'all some information, and I can ask the company that we still have on our staff. He couldn't make it down. He's up in Dallas area, but he couldn't make it down tonight to answer that question specifically. But he can give you a better answer than I can of what these fees and how he broke those down.
Could you answer me this? And I know we had our work session item on backwards day, so
yes,
it was
I do remember that very well.
and yeah, I'm sure we did the best we could, paying attention and asking questions. But leap day.
It was like opposite day, like
weekly?
Monday, Tuesday. You know.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Now, could you help quantify the benefit to the community, the benefit to the city of these capital projects? And what I mean by that is, my expectation with the drainage utility fee is we're implementing, citywide stormwater and drainage. So now each individual development isn't required to do on-site storage, maybe, or on-site detention. Or is there something like that where we're going to recognize a greater volume of developable land, or is it predominantly going to prevent some houses from being in a floodplain? What are we buying for these dollars in capital improvement projects?
What's the greatest public good?
What's my ROI, so to speak? Are my citizens getting $3 or $6 or $9 worth of value out of this fee?
No, that's a fair question. There are we identified some projects that are reducing floodplain for citizens, so they will not be in the floodplain. And then there's also some of these projects are determining what is out there drainage wise. Some of these systems were built, or may not be a system there. We don't know what's underneath the ground. And so some of these projects were figuring out what's there, what's the status of these things, and determining that right now it's been slow, or it's been part of a road project or some other project, whereas a drainage utility will be specifically for drainage and improving drainage in the city, because there are a couple areas, as mentioned on the pool, it floods, and that was one of the areas that we identified and trying to raise railroad, because it floods and it's
So
pretty
right
terrible.
now, it's an ancillary thought. This would be a direct and make it front and center regarding the actual specific project.
Yes, these funds will go specifically for drainage projects. Not,
But those drainage projects that you were mentioning, some of those you said were already funded or in the past have been funded
yes.
as part of parks or as part of road projects.
yeah, like Kelly Lane was one. As we were developing, and we noticed, hey, there's a section of Kelly Lane that floods, and started being funded because Kelly Lane was being improved upon. So, but the direction at the time was keep it in the drainage master plan, because it shows that we had some drainage issues, so it increased the fees.
So what it sounds like is these capital improvement projects would otherwise be carried on my debt service tax rate. As part of roads, as part of other projects, we'd be including drainage. It's really the operations that we can't fund out of debt service, so that would be a way to fund that. But am I understanding that correctly? Is this essentially just taking capital projects or a portion of capital projects off of debt service and putting them on a new fee?
And be careful, because he's baiting that trap.
I'm not baiting.
I mean, you led him to that conclusion. You said
You surprised me with the answer. You got me there.
I mean, because if you're saying that, I mean, as he articulated, yes, this is being done, and just like you said, there's other projects from there, and this one is for a sole focus. Hey, listen, let's try to figure out what the heck.
So if that's the case, then yeah, let me ask council, why would we implement a fee that covers capital projects instead of simply putting it on our debt service
And that's
rate?
the question I wanted to ask. Because
that's the question I wanted to ask.
How will this fee be assessed?
It's
Water?
per basically.
So
it's on your water bill.
on your water bill. So our folks are already dying because of the water bill right now, and now we're going to tack on another $3 to $9 to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why.
Or we're tacking it onto the debt service rate. It sounds like we need to tack on at least $2 for the operations.
It's gonna be and so to Doug's point, what he's saying is that it's happening one way or the other. Yeah, exactly.
Which pocket is it coming out of?
Yeah,
because it's left or right.
Yeah.
I don't see the what was it called, the channelization of Gillian Creek, so we could turn it into a river walk.
That's true.
I don't see that
that's
project.
Not that project is not on.
Is that the right term?
$27 fee.
The estimated project cost may be a little high for that one. Yeah, that's going to be the $25 fee right there. Lots of things with that. Good question, but there are also grants that are potentially available as well that won't be completely solely debt driven for some of these.
Why wouldn't? No, I'm not going to say.
Yeah,
it
what's the benefit of the fee over?
Yeah, I don't want to say
over
it that
putting it in our debt service fund.
I'd rather just ask. Hey, why not? Yeah, let's.
Why aren't we raising the INS rate to cover these projects? Why are we implementing a fee? Because it hurts the same either way.
Yeah. And
it's it's our purview either way.
Yeah. And I mean and
Does it?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Does it though?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna be one way or the other.
If we put it in the debt service fund for capital projects, then the rate goes up and it gets paid.
Right.
If we implement a fee for it, it gets done and it gets paid.
It's getting rolled in one way or the other.
Yeah.
Just like how it's being
Same
done right
money.
now. That's exactly what's happening. It's being done with debt
I'm
service.
trying to
That's
understand.
literally what's being done right now.
I'm
the
imagining
reason
there's
I
a
asked-
benefit here.
Thomas
has an
has
explanation walking
for
up.
why we should do it this way.
The
Yeah.
reason I ask is because if we do a GO bond, then we're issuing
Or COs.
or COs, then we're issuing debt and paying debt on that. Whereas if we collect this up front, it's like a layaway program, and we got the cash in the bank and we pay it, and we're saving the debt service.
We're still going to issue debt to pay for these, right?
But
Yes,
maybe not as much.
initially, yes.
No, it's just why wouldn't it be
No, it's
as
just
much?
another way to
Because we're
to pay
collecting
for
the
debt.
money ahead of the project.
He's trying to say
And we're
time-
collecting the money in taxes.
When does that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think
Same debt, same revenue.
Okay, same debt.
Yeah.
Same revenue. It's just coming to us in a different way. Yeah.
I'm not a financial
What do you?
authority.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a benefit to this?
The last
What's
time
the
there was
benefit?
no
what
debt
options
issued
does
for
it
a
open up?
capital project was before Pericles built.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Okay. That's all good.
Turn off
We
the
talked
mics.
about that, David. Come on.
Is there a benefit to doing it this way as opposed to issuing a bond?
yeah. So the short answer is yes.
Okay.
You're gonna
It's
deal.
a short answer, though.
You're gonna deal with debt either way.
Yeah.
In this scenario, obviously, you are funding the operation as opposed to funding operation through a debt mechanism and other projects. So it gets a little sticky there. But more importantly, the thing that I want to highlight is that the reason that a lot of cities and municipalities have gone down the road of a drainage utility is because there's an economy of scale. When we do a drainage utility project, we can actually relieve the drainage pressure in a basin from a basin-wide standpoint. So you'll have 3 or 4 or even more sometimes public projects that can benefit from a regional drainage project, as well as private development projects, because they're not having to attenuate for as much of that runoff. You've created that improvement through a drainage utility. That is not always the case. I will not say that every project is going to solve all of the world's problems, but many times.
Wait, I'm making a note here.
Many times you can see a greater region-wide improvement through those projects. And the second thing that I just want to throw out there really quickly is that when you do a drainage project specifically, there's economy of scale in hiring a contractor that's going to specialize in this. You're going to pay one mobilization fee for a regional improvement, as opposed to, let's say, a general contractor who builds roads and they have to mow additional equipment for a small little drainage improvement.
But that's not a difference in doing it this way, because we could issue COs for drainage projects.
You certainly could.
You certainly could. We could do a $3, a $2, or a $3 fee here, and then issue COs for the other $6 worth.
You certainly could. The only
I'm trying to understand: is there a benefit to doing it through drainage versus doing it through COs?
What were you going to say?
No, the only other difference if you did it through debt service such as that is that you would then have to just use general fund appropriation to fund the operation.
The M&O.
Of those.
Well, no, we could issue like a $3 fee.
You could
to do the general operations and maintenance.
You could
and
keep
then
it COs for the rest.
And keep it amorphous.
You could. This is essentially creating an enterprise facility.
So you're trying to make it cleaner. You're trying to make it cleaner. But you understand from our end.
Are you building a kingdom here, Thomas?
Oh my gosh. Anyway,
you're a little fiefdom, maybe.
I think maybe like MS4s across the country are dictating drainage improvements.
But you can understand our concern about assessing it just after what we've done.
What were you going to say? Yeah. There's no wrong or right way to do it. This is one way to do it. You could fund the operation, completely separately, and then debt fund the projects, or you could continue on the traditional path that some cities follow, which is to just fund these improvements along with your transportation and roadway improvements.
So as they happen, as projects happen,
But
so
I
we
just,
do that.
I want to be clear, none of our current CIP drainage projects are funded.
Correct.
That's the delta.
That's good to know.
That's a good point, but I want to be clear. Do you and your staff understand the crap we take from the public because water is going up and up and up? And then y'all keep coming to us and saying, let's raise the rates, let's add this to it. I mean, I'm just being honest, and I want to be blunt about it. I mean, do y'all understand the heat we take?
And we do too, and yes, we do, and it's very serious, and it is talked about at our staff level all the time. The problem is if you don't do it this way, they're still going to pay it because it's then just put.
No, you could do it his way.
Well, no,
They're
no.
still gonna pay it, but they're not gonna.
But it's going to be in a consistent way that they're used to. When we implement a new fee to pay for something new, I can see that. When we implement a new fee because we can't pay for it that way anymore, then okay, I understand. Sometimes we do that with we did our impact fees, right? So we raised those. Yeah, we implemented a new fee to pay for something that wasn't getting paid for before.
And that's what we're doing here.
But it's not, because we have another way to pay for this. We have a legitimate, consistent way to pay for this. We just, for whatever reason, haven't included this in our CIP in the past.
And so,
if this is part of CIP, it needs to be a part of CIP, and it needs to be included in debt service.
so I like the way you put it. I like the way you put it is that if there's not a need,
but funded by
if there's not a need for us to change how we've handled this and accept, just like you said, you let us know this right now, this is currently being included, then we should just be doing it the way that way that we were just discussing with it, as opposed to going with this new plan, this new idea. To your point, where we're going to explain to citizens, hey, yes, we're going around this manner, as opposed to what the other options were too. And you also mentioned grants. So who would the grants be through?
There are different organizations. FEMA puts out grants. The Water Development Board has recently done.
I really was going to ask about TWB. So
Mm-hmm.
just asking, because I live in a van by the river. Have we talked to anybody about grants?
So yes, as part of our as part of our contract with the city, we have a grants group that will develop a grants plan and present that to the city staff and should say these are the grants that are available. These are the things you have to do to pursue these grants and what's available out there. And that can help fund some of these. And some of those are debt with zero interest. Some of them are matching that the entity will match a certain percentage, 50, 75% or whatever. But yes, that is part of the plan as we do this work.
So I mean, I don't want you to go back and think that we're just poo-pooing on this work. I mean, it takes a lot of meticulousness, expertise. You did an excellent job presenting this. I just hope that what we're saying makes sense when we're saying, okay, listen, we're going to have a whole new funding mechanism that's going to be another fee added on, and people they're going to be quite aware and cognizant of this right there as well, as opposed to we already have a system in place where we can do. I mean, you're right, Serena. Okay, if you want to say our bad, I guess that's right for not having this done, asking staff to do this in the first place, including this in these projects. But moving forward, it should be. Because just like you said, if we're building a new road, make sure you go ahead and do that. If we're going to develop over here, new development, we're doing that ourselves. Have that incorporated in that, because that's the mechanism by we can go ahead and do it that way. At least that's my opinion.
How do you, I mean, it sounds like we have an operational deficit, so we need to add at least $2.
We need some amount of fee.
We need to add at least $2. And so how do y'all feel about adding the $3, which gives us a couple of extra projects, which Emmanuel Khan Park is a good one.
Yeah. It just funds.
How do you feel about doing that, and then for the other ones, issuing the debt as needed?
I'd rather us look at the grants, look what our options are, and then if needs be, bring this back, and then we can.
But we need the $2 for O&M apparently.
Well, aren't we just funding that out of our M&O budget, out of the general fund?
I mean, the philosophy is that M&O competes with everything else. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the philosophy here. I just want to be, and it always will. So every year we're going to be in that fight. Yeah. And so this is what allows for dedication. The purpose of cleaning it up, when I use those words, is to allow for that. And that's why. And yes, we know it impacts. We absolutely do. It's going to come from somewhere. Mm-hmm.
And what we know is that when we implement a fee, yes, that's usually to take the service and put it directly opposed to the fee, so that you can see exactly what you're getting for that service. Bingo. But also because it competes with M&O. Because if we make it a fee, then we take it off of the M&O books, and we have capacity within our limits legislatively. In this case, if we need that capacity, I can support a fee for the M&O, but we already have the capacity for the debt service.
My other argument, I'll end it, this is important to us, and there's a reason there's a lot of work into this, is that
doing an annual budget with M&O is also that drainage spans for the rest of our time and lives. Piecemealing regional efforts as it relates to detention is not wise. So what happens every year is that we're looking only 8 months ahead, 12 months ahead. This needs to have, in our opinion, a dedicated.
So I don't disagree with you that I don't disagree with what you just said. My question is, does that have to happen now? Now, I know what you did, which is smart, because you showed, okay, listen, this is how much it cost back in the day. This is what is over there, just to remind us, time value of money, get it. But to my opinion is let's go ahead and exhaust all our other options, and then if we have that conversation about the top two, then we have that conversation about the top.
But
two.
it's.
I mean, that's my.
I hear what you're saying, but you know, just to provide you a counterpoint, that doesn't solve the bigger problem that staff is articulating.
Well, I think that what we're saying is that where are you going to come in and have a commission about looking from this from a bonding standpoint?
We're always going to look for grants.
Yeah.
That doesn't change.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's not a crit. I mean, you're right. It's always critical because it's M&O. But like, there's something like right now about to burst drainage. God bless the rivers. Everything else is going to happen over here with it. Like, it's not super critical.
Drainage always seems to come in last behind.
That's what I mean.
Roads and well, they
It's the
need a
unseen.
new water line and you know the manholes are backing up and we got to fix. Drainage always comes in last because it's only like nights tonight where you have to worry about it, right? And so
We planned it this way.
Thomas, do you have a feeling for this? It feels like $2 of that's going to go to M&O based on the $19 million that Tim
Feels
was
like,
calculating
yeah. It is.
earlier, right? How much does that reflect from a tax rate perspective? How much is that alleviating off of the M&O budget, the general fund, the M&O tax rate? Because it's.
Well, I mean, two things. One, we don't currently fund it, so I don't know.
Yeah, we don't do
we
it.
don't fund it all.
We don't do it. That's what you're saying. Literally.
So the
we don't
fee
do it.
the fee that we're talking about here for operations and maintenance is for the operation and maintenance of the projects that are in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
It's to bring on the equipment and the folks to maintain, you know, I don't know what this is, $40 million worth of infrastructure there. So it wouldn't be like a relief situation. I mean, it's truly, this is.
Well, what would it cost us to fund it on the general fund?
To add?
Yeah.
To add $2 per, I would have to have finance bail me out.
$2 a month per connection.
The total.
What would?
Yeah, what's it?
What would a $2 fee generate?
I mean, I'm trying to think what the.
Tracy, the question is, what is the
Add
revenue
those
off of
things up,
$2 per utility bill currently?
It-
So
it-
two.
well, it's
I'm sorry. I
it's not
don't-
even per utility bill because
It's-
residential and commercial is built set
that's
differently,
right.
right? And it's based
Exactly,
on
so
is commercial based on impervious surface?
Yes.
Yeah, so
we
it
have that?
gets complicated.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Somewhere in here we know. Somewhere in
Somewhere
this
in here we
report,
know
it tells us how much
So
it brings in.
I'm seeing $8.2 million in projects with blue check marks.
Yeah, so that.
Yeah, but
divided
that's just the extra $1.
So take 2/3 of that.
Okay,
Of
there you go.
8.2.
There you go.
I don't have a calculator in front of me, but 2/3 of 8.2, that's the $2.
Except that's debt service.
And that gives James a number to figure out what.
So what is that? $7 million roughly, which would be $350,000 a year. Where generally debt service is 5% of total. Is my
Boy,
rule of thumb.
I would really want to run those numbers.
Yeah,
before
I
would
do
do
too.
So that
Well,
might be
you don't believe
$700,000.
his backhand
So that'd be
napkin
about a penny on the tax rate.
The worst case scenario, we do it gradually.
Mhm.
When we talked about that, Serena, just gradually, you know, little by little.
I mean,
Not $9 right off the bat.
That's how
I mean,
No,
I'm
we agree.
comfortable. I'm telling you, I'm comfortable at the $3 frame.
Me too.
Okay, and then how about we do this?
I've been saying $2 ish,
For
but
M&O.
no, $3. $3
Total.
feels comfortable. I think that's more than we need because we need to do the rest as CIP on capital projects.
Yeah, well, I mean, no, if you want to.
Well, no, the
There's
whole
no
idea is
action
we
on
need
it.
direction of staff.
Yeah.
What do we want them to go figure out?
I want to see what the other options are.
And what other options do you want to see, David?
Yeah, why table it?
Hey, you and Rudy both expressed a number of different options. I don't feel like we're gonna make a decision on this tonight, so I guess the answer is the ideas that you guys have floated about, particularly about the idea of doing just a $2 fee, and then do the rest of it with CO or GO money. And I do think that this should be part of the long-term budgeting process. There should be a line item for drainage, and it should be, somewhere in the budget. This is how much we're going to spend on drainage improvements this year, and it should be a repeating item every year.
Okay.
It's not any different than police or.
I mean, I think it is different than police. I
roads.
think it's like roads.
I think there's a good point. Thomas, if you want to make it.
There's a couple of things that I just want to throw out there real quick. One, and most specifically, is the thing that we're talking about here tonight was based, on a lot of assumptions regarding a drainage utility fee. What I'm hearing is really a desire to hear pros and cons for the different ways of doing this, because my concern is that if these project dollars are competing with transportation dollars, they go different lengths, right?
You're saying if we don't do it this way, we're not going to do it.
I
They're not
don't know if we're not going to do it.
I don't know.
We haven't done it.
We literally haven't done it. That's the thing. We got to be.
So this is a way to talk us into doing
this
it.
problem.
Crystal
ball.
Force
You've
the
got
hand,
CIP
right?
project list before.
No, I think what I'm trying to say is if we continue to, quote unquote, manage this ghost drainage utility by project, we're not going to realize the benefit of being able to affect an entire basin, and we're just losing a lot of economy of scale there. So if the desire is to hear more pros and cons about that, I think that's completely doable. Again, you could fund the operations and maintenance through a fee and decide to fund drainage projects through your typical capital program and not establish a fee to do that. Again, historically, the city has not gone that direction. So I think that'll continue to be a challenge.
And I want to talk about the property, the reason we wouldn't do it through property value versus a fee. So there's also the piece. So just our consultant wrote in, we've been pinging him, and he said, a major difference is that the new fee is established on basis of benefited properties and not based on property value. Those with the most impervious would pay the most, whereas property values and taxable values are not always consistent with contributions run up to the drainage system. There's a reason.
Roughly, though.
Well, okay, so
there's a philosophy.
I know there's a philosophy, but again, this is something I would love. I want to see them all. How about that? I mean, because I get what he said to you, but now I'm interested in saying, okay, well.
I mean, the higher the property value, the more impervious surface.
Yeah, so I want to.
It's going to be
apartments.
No. It's not 100% ratio, but it's not far off.
Because
I bet we can take this to the voters on a GO bond, and they will be happy to pass this. So let's give them the opportunity to vote for better drainage in their city, and they'll say, well, I like better drainage, sure. And then we move forward with a project on that basis.
I've never heard anyone run on a pro drainage agenda, but.
You think anybody's going to be anti-drainage?
I mean.
Yeah. Not flooding my backyard.
Yeah, why'd you dig into floodplain?
Well, you're anti-public safety, so hey.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Did you get okay, pros and cons? Thank you.
Of what models? Because this will take.
I'm not advocating for moving. I'm not.
Oh yeah, you like
I like moving. I've got a plan. I like moving forward with inserting a $3 fee this year and reevaluating next year to see if another fee is something we have stomach for. In the meantime, perhaps looking at putting together a bond for the balance of that to I don't know what the rest of it adds up to, but
$44 million total.
Put a $44 million drainage bond out there and see if you get that passed, and then you got all the money for it.
So, and my preference would be to look at what grants, what opportunities TWB has from there as well, come back with this, I'm not opposed to a bond. I mean, because we gotta start doing it because we haven't been doing it, and then look at other ways. If we're not going to do it through a bond, what other ways can we implement this? We're seeing this with a fee bond. Are there any other mechanisms in place? The impervious cover that you just brought up, which wasn't even an option in my mind. But thank you, Serena. You know, I'd be interested to see that and why we wouldn't actually do that as compared to other things.
And Jim, I love your idea, but the only problem is once we insert a fee, you know that fee never gets turned down. Even after we've paid off for the projects, that fee's going to stay.
The cost for
We're gonna need it
creek
for
maintenance
operations.
isn't going to go down.
But
The cost
it's
for-
still not going to come off. You know, we'll need
No,
it for
you're right.
operations if we were to do a bond. I mean,
It's like the tollway. It
You're right.
never
yeah, it never stops.
Don't you dare
Other
call
than
us
that
next
one
time.
And I said GO, but in all likelihood, we would be voting to approve a CO for this because this is needed infrastructure. It's not something that you decide you want or you don't want. It's, we're flooding.
But the voters will like it better if we give them a chance to approve it.
Yeah, Caesar
And
would like it
it
better.
is, you know, a democracy after all.
I'm not saying.
Representative Republic.
Oh, yeah?
Read your constitution.
You know, I think that there's a good opportunity where we could bring back some of the pros and cons on this item, and we could list the additional cities that have already passed the drainage utility. Again, I think when you guys, you know, will be looking at the upcoming 5-year CIP and seeing a transportation and mobility need that's in the 800 million range, and you stack up the 40 million worth of drainage projects, it's going to be very difficult to prioritize those drainage projects. So this is a mechanism. It is not the mechanism. And so we can present kind of the pros and cons of both sides and make sure that
So,
everybody's.
Thomas, if we went all in for a GO on all the projects, I mean, I can already imagine now it's going to take 20 years to do that. I mean, it's a timely process. So we end up losing money that way.
I think so.
Well, I mean, you know, if we wanted to do all these projects all at once, would it be physically possible?
No.
Okay.
But
So we're gonna have to
the
spread it
drainage
out
master
over time
plan-
anyway.
The drainage master plan does not call for all of these projects to happen at one time. The way that the model is set up in the fee-based proposal is you're collecting these fees over time to build up the necessary capital to do them in a timely manner. You're never going to go execute on all these projects at once.
So we
this
get
is
the
a slow roll
authorization to
CO
do the projects in the GO, and we issue the bonds as we need them to do the projects.
Or we issue COs as we go to cover the projects one at a time.
Which is what we would have liked to have done originally, but apparently we haven't done that in the first place.
Well,
so that's fair.
we didn't know we
Wasn't on my
had a
list.
drainage
It's-
CIP
no.
Hey,
list.
this is
Yeah, no, what I
That's
want
fine.
you to go away from this conversation with Thomas is that what I'm hearing anyway is that the council is supportive of getting these projects done.
Sure.
I understand there's some concern about our ability to do that if these are mixed in with other projects, but separating them out doesn't make me any more or less willing to do these specific projects. It all has to get done.
Yeah.
So let's, and I'm also, I want to be clear, I'm not saying, oh, let's just handle these piecemeal with traffic improvements. No, these projects on this list, I think we're very supportive of getting them done.
Well, we've said more than once from the dais that Kelly Lane is a road project that turned into a drainage project. Right? We've said that more than once, and so everyone is cognizant of the impact of weather changes over the last decades or so. And I think Atlas 14 even moved the 100-year flood to the 500-year flood to the 100-year flood. And who knows where the 500-year flood is now, but is there an Atlas 16 or 17 that's coming out that's going to say those numbers are all wrong, and this is only going to get worse? And the more we delay in addressing it, the bigger hole that we're digging for ourselves?
Yeah, again, I mean, regulation's always going to get more. It's not going to get less. And so I think that really what we're hearing tonight, just to be clear, is continued support for these projects. They're important projects. We need to get them done. From a funding mechanism standpoint, there might be an appetite to see funding, an option for funding the operations and maintenance But really, we could treat the drainage utility no different than the CIP, list them separately, and it's just funding those through a more traditional means is what I'm hearing.
Which my personal opinion, I'd like to see. I think the other folks maybe something different, but I'd like to see the options and again look at the grants and the other things that we're looking at. I
I don't think anyone's saying do these without going after grants, but I don't think we can go after grants unless we're committed to doing projects.
But I don't think anyone's ever saying that we're not committed to doing projects.
We're all committed to doing
Yeah.
the project.
That's not-
And
that's
I
not-
think you read the room absolutely right when you said that. The question is, are there grants that are available from TWB that are dependent upon what the city funding mechanism is?
Yeah, what you're
If
gonna pledge as the
if
revenue.
TWB only wants to give us the money if we have the $6 fee,
Yeah.
then that changes our decision about how to do that.
in one night.
I don't think you're going to run into a situation where they're only going to give you the grant if you have a fee. I think the problem that any funding agency is going to run into is when you say, we're going to pledge this amount, and they say, you've already pledged that for roads, so you can't double pledge it.
Right.
And we have a need on transportation that's greater than, what the drainage is. But certainly, we can reconfigure
And is
that.
the concern with all these projects the same level?
No, I think that there's differences, specifically the first couple
Because you have
projects.
the first two, which are my inclination would be that you have the first two checked, which would mean, hey y'all,
They're
these
high
are the most
priority.
important ones that we need.
Correct.
And I don't want to make the assumptions that it's going down a continuation of this.
No, it's going down based on priority, when these projects need to be done in relation to other transportation improvements, so you're not building a road before the drainage improvement is done. And then, to be quite honest, some of the larger ticket items are pushed out simply because you need time to build the fee, to build that amount up, to have enough money to support the debt service for the project.
Okay. Consequently, why you have NA and no check, even at that $9.
Yeah.
And to be clear, my understanding is that if you're applying for a grant, you need two things. You need to show some sort of matching funding mechanism to match part of the grant funds, and you also need to have plans ready.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
gotta have 30% engineering plans or something.
Depending on the funding source, the second half is yes, and some people want, a preliminary plan. Some people want, 30% environmental is already completed. But to the first part of the question, 100%. Nobody's going to give us funding unless we've got a dedicated revenue stream.
And so either we need to look at something, a fee that's dedicated to that purpose, as in this scenario. We either need to budget, future budget money from our O&M or issue COs, or at least articulate that we're ready to issue a CO, and the issuance is always based on project commencement and whatnot. And that's what you're gonna bring back to us, is looking at the different mechanisms where we can guarantee that the funding is there when we're trying to track down some of these grants.
Yeah, the simplest and cleanest way is to just come back to you guys with the different models and say, these are the three different main ways that municipalities are funding this, and it happens all the way from just funding it like a traditional CIP all the way to a dedicated fee.
Okay.
Make sure you look at Sacramento and that other city he mentioned earlier.
Yuma.
Yuma.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Tom.
He did mention a great city.
Okay, Trista, would you pull up the pulled items, read the captions, please?
Y'all blame David.
I mean, I was betting 10-15 and we would have made it.
I said 10-15.
The
Is that what you
first
said?
item,
Mayor said 11 something.
Great.
Okay, item 5.
Item 5D is
D.
approving a professional services agreement with Clarion Associates LLC for an assessment of the Unified Development Code in an amount not to exceed $89,220 for fiscal year 2024, and authorizing the city manager to execute the same.
Hold it. Yes. Just pull it hard. What are you thinking? I don't mean that.
Are the people here? This isn't for staff.
Oh, the consultant here? Yes.
Well, he's here.
Do you have a question or?
Yes, I do.
Would you come forward, sir? Or whomever.
I'll introduce him.
Okay.
This is Clarion Associates. They were our top scorer by, I think, about 100 points. And this is Matt Gobel with the firm.
Evening, Council.
Hello.
Hi. Can you
I'm Matt Goebel.
Okay, there you go. Okay. Oh, you're the guy on top. I went through your whole quote. I was fascinated with what you had to write. We believe that our team's enthusiasm, approach, and regional knowledge and depth of collaboration experience will lead to successful new UDC. Enthusiasm. Go ahead. What is? That was very.
Be
Yeah,
enthusiastic.
that definitely stepped out of in your vernacular. I was
We like zoning. We're zoning nerds. No, I grew up in Texas. I grew up in Dallas. I went to school in Austin, and I've been fascinated watching the state grow.
You graduated
over
Plan
these years.
2.
I was in Plan 2, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that what we do is really important. It's really unusual work to be able to talk with you all about how you think Pflugerville has grown well, what you think you could do better, how we think we could work with your zoning ordinances to suggest ways that you might learn from other places in Texas, other places around the country to influence long-term growth patterns. It's hard stuff. It's hard to communicate these ideas to the public in ways that kind of get them engaged. I just find it fascinating. We gave you a lot of different options, examples of communities that we worked in. Every one of them deals with the same, legal structures, the same statutes, the same challenges from the legislature, the same problems with the public, but they've all landed in different places in how they go about solving those problems. Addison's very different.
And you went to my next point, my next question. So UDC is the Bible, right?
Yeah.
Like this is what it is. We're telling people this is how we run our city. Like if you
Mhm.
want to be able to do that, this is your Bible. The Glenwood Springs project, and can you expand more on that and how the learned lessons from that would be applicable here? Because I saw McKinney, some other things I was like interested in, but I was like, wait a minute, this is just one specific area, one building. Okay, I wanted to hear more about that.
About Glenwood Springs?
So about that specific project. 'Cause that
Sure.
was a very interesting. That out of the ones you presented,
Yeah.
that was a very interesting example.
That's a community where we structured the contract in a similar way to what you're looking at here. So the assessment report was a freestanding contract at the beginning of the project that then turned into a full-on code update. That's why we included that. Oftentimes, like in the McKinney project, the assessment is just included as the first step in a larger contract. And so we gave you that example as one place where we had structured the contract that way. It's a fast-growing community in the mountains of Colorado, Roaring Fork Valley. They had a lot of, I think, challenges that you'll be looking at as well. How can they simplify their platting process? How they had a lot of different plat options that were outdated, and they needed to update them with state law. They looked at different ways of doing site plan review. They updated a lot of development standards in terms of building quality, in terms of landscaping, parking, etc. So all the same types of issues on the table. Great staff. It's a beautiful place to visit if you haven't been there.
Well, and so you also brought up the fact in your proposal that we will do I don't want to take words out of your mouth. The time necessary to fulfill our project. And it was interesting by that you said the time necessary. In this instance, given you're just me here, what do you think is the estimated time necessary to fulfill this project?
I think we'll have a product ready for you for public review in.
Which was pretty aggressive.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we said October.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
We can get that done. Well, but we're not rewriting the code. We're giving you a roadmap for rewriting the code. And a lot of times we'll be giving you options. It could be that we don't make final decisions on option A, B, or C until we get into the drafting process. But we'll lay out those options and best practice suggestions for you in that first report. You're growing fast and you have momentum for the project, and we'd like to take advantage of that. And so your staff wanted to move this fast, and we said, yeah, we could do that.
And then finally the stakeholders, various stakeholders. You have something set up where, in fact, what you'll go out to the specific community on. You also had an internal staff support, where you're going to be getting that feedback from. Can you talk a little bit more about how that's going to work for you?
Yeah, we get different types of feedback from different stakeholders. Your folks in your different departments, maybe it's housing, maybe it's engineering, they're going to have specific comments about the UDC and what they'd like to see improved. You're going to hear very different things from maybe folks in neighborhood groups that just have generalized concerns about growth in Pflugerville or traffic. Drainage plans or traffic over on Kelly Lane. So, it's our job to filter out that different type of feedback from different stakeholders and help you categorize it. And what are the big ideas and what are some of the nitty gritty nuts and bolts that we'll have to work on in certain parts of the ordinance. But we have a lot of experience in that. We hear different things from different people. We'll help you sort it out.
David, you have anything?
Zoning geeks.
You did a great job. Thank you for covering the waterfront.
Motion to approve, blah, 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 as presented.
5D.
Second? Don't know if you had a second. I guess you didn't.
No, you did.
Just put you
Okay.
I saw that.
Motion carried.
Me and my bearded head.
Look forward to
Get
it.
a new
Thank you, guys.
picture.
Thank you.
Next is item 5G, approving a memorandum of understanding with Austin FC and the 4ATX Foundation to receive an on-court mural installation at the Stonehill Multi-Sport Court and authorizing the city manager to execute the same.
Caesar pulled this, that soccer hater.
No, I pulled it.
But I'm glad David did now.
Sure. Are you interested in a presentation or?
He wants to see what the mural
Well,
looks
I
like.
want to
Oh,
know
yeah.
what it's going to look like, because we
Shane.
have given the scope of services gives this other agency the complete right to put whatever they want up there, and we don't get to review what they put up there.
Have you seen their murals?
Everybody does a clunker now and then. Ford created the Edsel.
Just
Sure,
saying,
okay.
they're doing a really good job.
So this
Okay.
was the, good night, Mayor and Council. This was the vision, Project Backboard goes into blighted neighborhoods, does, installations. And so we reached out to Austin FC about a partnership.
Wait,
They
do
have
we have,
picked an,
do we have blighted neighborhoods?
no, that's why, that's, well, that's
So
why,
why are they coming here?
How long do you want to be?
Project Backboard, I'm sorry.
11-17.
I should have explained more. Project Backboard wouldn't work with us because their mission is work with blighted communities. And so the idea was to do something like that. We worked with Austin FC. They're working with Emily Eisenhart, who has done a lot of work in her portfolio. We tried to show 2 examples of what we believe her offering will look like. This is, you
So
can
what
see.
Shane is saying, they normally don't do this,
Right.
but they're making an exception because they think Pflugerville and Cesar Reed needs to learn more about soccer, and so this would be a great opportunity.
Yeah, this will be the first.
So this is what, going to be a giant soccer ball?
No, it's going to be an abstract design.
It's
We
an
assume
abstract rendition.
much more like one of these that you see here.
Well, I'm just real. I'm real hesitant about giving anybody a blank check. If they want to show us, look, this is what we think what we want it to look like, we can say yes, that's fine. But even Ford created the Edsel, so but if it's going to be exactly like one of these, great. If it's going
Her
to be
portfolio
different,
her portfolio looks very much like this. So we have not received, yet what her sketch is going to be. Austin FC and their philanthropic foundation is working with her to go through some stuff. If we were paying, we have some fail safes in our requirements that it would go through either our Parks Commission, or if it was on a different property, to go through one of those citizen boards. But we aren't paying for this. Austin FC is paying for it. I don't imagine Austin FC is going to give us something that we are
Janky?
Right, that we're not proud of.
an Edsel.
Thank you.
A
You
Wetzel?
wouldn't think that Ford would create the Edsel either, but they did.
I don't know.
Well,
I know
let
what a
me
Bronco
ask
is.
this: the MOU, does it have any requirements on us for maintaining the artwork
It does. So we have to maintain the artwork, which we would have
for
maintained.
a certain amount of time?
Yeah, we would have
How
maintained.
long before we can paint over it if we don't like it?
Anytime.
We just have to maintain it as we would a sports court. It would have to be insured as it would a sports court, and
Graffiti-proof paint?
yeah, we have to go through maintenance. Oh, it's got to be permitted. We got to go through any of our processes of permitting, and then once a year they get to have an event on the court.
Yeah. I mean,
That part doesn't give me any heartache at
yes.
all, but.
No, but Austin FC, they might tear down the neighborhood. What?
I mean,
Wow. Those
soccer
hooligans.
players,
Yeah.
those hooligans.
I'm being positive here, and he's trying to make jokes.
He didn't think you were being positive.
Oh god!
You didn't catch that. We're not used to that.
I know. I'm always.
Yeah,
yeah.
You're right. I keep turning them to him.
David pulled it.
I get the concern. They're literally a part of our community. I don't think they're going to give us something that's. I get what you're saying. I just
The Edsel.
I've seen the murals they have out there now and what they've worked on, and I'm just again, just like you said, their portfolio, is different iterations of what's actually been shown.
Great. Let her bring us a sketch, and we can say yes.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
I don't.
You may.
I don't want to approve anything.
Motion to
without-
approve?
Second.
A motion and a second to approve.
You're nicer to me. I would have said call the question.
I'm going to go on the record that if it's ugly as sin, y'all are to blame.
Yes, come after me.
If it's ugly, we'll go play on it every day.
Your motion carried. Thank you.
Item 5H is approving the purchase of goat vegetation management services from Goatscaping LLC in the amount of $61,196.80 and authorizing the city manager to execute. the
To
same.
be fair to David, you don't often see goat vegetation management on there.
Yeah, I want to know what goat vegetation management is.
Well, we're going to
Awesome.
name them
That's what it is.
this
It is
evening.
awesome.
Shane, do you want to come?
If it's
chat?
your
Is there a
bar,
lot of
you
poison
have to
ivy,
pay
Shane?
for it.
Yes.
Yeah, we absolutely have a lot of
thing for it.
Didn't we do this already?
Yeah.
Was
You
it
don't know,
just-
you honestly don't know? You haven't been, you
So-
haven't seen the goats we had?
We did we had, yeah,
There we go.
you're right. We did it, over the winter break. We did a trial run. We were working with some folks to try to get some poison ivy and underbrush mitigation, and the quotes were coming in about 3 times the amount that it would cost us to do this trial run with non-humans, with these goats. And so we gave them a couple of acres, about 15 acres, 12, 15 acres, and they did a trial run. Super popular. They did a great job.
Are these goats natives or non-native goats of Pflugerville?
They're not native to Pflugerville.
Do they have all their legs?
They're native to DFW. Huh?
Yeah.
Just checking. Or Mary Blair five-legged goats. It can go either way.
So I assume they're not covered by workers' comp?
I don't believe so. No, sir.
Okay.
We'll send them a 1099.
We don't have to. We don't
Mayor,
have
would
to
you
do
entertain a motion?
Please hurry.
Motion approved.
Second.
As presented.
I second that motion.
That is very innovative.
Are you looking for
Shane,
someone to
I think
sponsor,
that might be
sponsor water?
like the most
goats?
original thing you've done.
We do provide water.
That's awesome.
Item 5K, approving a resolution of the City of Pflugerville, Texas.
Whoa.
Hey, I didn't vote.
We gotta get to
Oh,
vote.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, there it
There
goes.
goes.
Tristan's like, come on, go.
Tristan's ready.
Motion
Yeah, I know,
carried.
She must have a vote on the 10, she must have a bet on the 11,
Okay,
17
5K.
over under. That's all
Now,
right.
item 5K is approving a resolution of the City of Pflugerville, Texas, determining costs of the proposed public improvements in the Lakeside Meadows Public Improvement District, approving a proposed assessment roll, calling a public hearing, and making relating findings and determinations in accordance with Chapter 372 of the Texas Local Government Code.
Doug and I's favorite place.
What you got, David?
Okay, so what's going on here with the costs of the PID?
Sure, we have John Snyder here, or Jeremy, do you want to go ahead and
I'm-
introduce John?
I'm sorry, David, the cost of the bid?
PID.
He said
PID.
Bid.
He said
Cost of the bid, sorry.
So, do you just want us to answer that question, or?
I guess, can you tell me what the tax rate equivalent is?
Yeah.
This is John Snyder. He's with P3 Works. We'd be happy to help.
Yeah, so the total assessment is $28,226,000. And let me get you the equivalent tax rate would be 38.8 cents on improvement area 1 and just under 10 cents on improvement area 2.
So that is
Bless you.
in line with what I've seen for mud districts in the city.
Bless you.
I do have concerns about affordability, as we all do.
What are they getting from this?
Yeah, in terms of what improvements are being
Yeah,
funded?
because I mean, just like you said, yeah.
It's
It's all the traditional infrastructure. So it's the road, water, sewer, the storm drain, landscape improvements.
And they got folks who are going to be coming to pay that fee.
In this case, every there's a number of property owners out there, and every one of them signed a landowner agreement consenting to the assessments and with the maximum amount, and all the assessments are within those amounts.
Would the amount be lower if we had a regional drainage program?
I'm not going there.
We still roll it back.
Or a railroad track.
All right.
David, did that
That's
answer
everything
your
I
question?
needed. Move to approve.
Second.
Obviously. Thank you.
Let's,
Thank you.
Let's just.
Mine took a. I had to tap it like.
I'm fascinated to see what
Yeah,
it
maybe my fingers.
I know, yeah. Well, see, you kept them on.
Hey,
Dang it.
motion
All them-
carried.
20 minutes late.
10:36.
I mean, I still got the.
You got the under. All right,
We're
Jen, you still
adjourned.
selling wine right now? Is the wine bar open?
It's about
I like the Pflugerville Library because it's a place